Meeting of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 13th day of June, 2023. Please rise if you're able and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and join us for a brief moment of silence as we keep in our thoughts and prayers all the men and women of our armed services who bravely defend our freedoms at home and abroad each day. Let's join together in silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Present.
Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
All right, so we are having a technical issue with our hybrid meeting that I want to just make everybody aware of. We're trying to resolve it, but at the moment, we do not have a Zoom link. But we are going to proceed with the town board meeting on the advice of council, and we may have to leave certain things open because we have noticed it as a hybrid meeting.
Are we able to record the meeting for the clerk's portal?
I hope so.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's not an issue.
So that'll be there.
Thank you.
You're not connected.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first item of business, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our regular town board meeting of May 23rd, 2023.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Approved. Second, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our special town board meeting of June 1st, 2023.
Same second?
Same second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Why don't we add, before we do communications, there's some requests to walk resolutions on. This will require a supermajority vote. 43474 appoints Jeff Ulysses to planner trainee position in land management. 43573, notice of public hearing to accept a deed of open space dedication in connection with a site disturbance plan approval at 378 Watermill Town Road. The next one, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier, is 43595, authorized extension of amendment of Green Velvet Tree, Inc. contract. The next one, sponsored by Councilman McNamara, 43596, notice of public hearing for enforcement action at 6 Ashwood Court, North Sea, Southampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-61-1-19.2 to remove hazardous accumulation of material. And the last one, 43598, is our 11th warrant. Can I make a motion to walk all five of those on?
Second.
Any objections? Second by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those will all be added to our agenda, and we can take it up at the end. All right, so let's move on to communications. Madam Clerk, would you please read the communications?
The following communications have been received in the office of the town clerk. We have received public notices from the Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning, a meeting notice for the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Board, Town of East Hampton, public hearing notice, Town of Huntington, resolution urging New York State Legislature and Governor to enact legislation regarding a voter's ID process. Town of Riverhead, notice of public hearing. Town of Southold, notice of adoptions. New York State liquor license 30-day advance notice to local municipalities from the listed entities, and financial disclosure statement filings from the listed individuals. Emails, letters, and land use applications have been received regarding the following: Bel Air Cove property, 20 Shinnecock Road, Hampton Bays, June, Strawberry Thanksgiving ceremony, Shinnecock Nation. Planning Board matter of CVS site plan, 119 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays. Proposed lithium battery storage facility, BESS, Hampton Bays. Proposed sewage treatment facility at 1 Bowers Lane, Watermill. Proposed sewage treatment facility in Hampton Bays. Southampton Village Architectural Review Board application for 200 Pond Lane in Southampton Village, and Zoning Board of Appeals applications for 17 Bishop Avenue, West Hampton, 106 Cold Spring Point Road, Tuckahoe, 47A Lynn Avenue, Hampton Bays, and 11 Westwood Drive in Noyak. Bid and request proposals have been received on May 24th, 2023 for a 2022 Ford F-50 Super Duty truck for the Highway Department, mulching head for a Takeuchi TL12R2 for the Highway Department, and also for the Highway Department, wood-wearing surface replacement for the River Avenue Bridge. The following report was filed from the Town Comptroller for the May 2023 monthly financial report, and that concludes the communications for this meeting's agenda.
Thank you, Sunday. Okay, we're gonna move on to public hearings. If you wish to speak at a public hearing, we do request you fill out a card. I don't know if most of you are here for public hearings or public portion. Public portion will follow the public hearings, and there's also cards for public portion. If you don't fill out a card, after we get through the cards, I may turn to the audience and ask if anybody has not spoken who wanted to. All right, so we're gonna start with public hearing number 1. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice?
Public hearing number 1, to consider the acquisition of lands of Shorts Pond Associates, Marcia Held, Jane Held, and Linda Held, located at 264 Geyer Road and 1160 Scuttle Hole Road in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, New York.
All right, thank you, Sunday. Jacqueline Fenlon is going to introduce this. She is our CPF program manager. I don't know. You're the first up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, Town Council members, Jacqueline Fenlon, CPF Conservation Manager. Today we are here for, as Cindy provided, the Shorts Pond Associates, Marcia Held, Jane Held, and Linda Held properties, which are 2 properties which you can see right here, which total approximately 8.8 acres. This land is located at 264 Guy Road, which is this lot right here. And then 1160 Scuttle Hole Road, both in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-49-1, 5.1 and 5.2. This is an acquisition that is in consideration as the owners have considered interest in selling the property for $6,800,000. This is in the agricultural land open space target area within the community preservation plan, and it has goals for also trail connection as there's an existing trail connection to the south, and this would give public access to Scuttle Hole Road.
I'm sorry, it's the one on the right we're looking
It's both of these.
at? Both those parcels. Is that near Atlantic Golf Course?
Yes, Atlantic Golf Course is actually just right here.
Oh, okay, that water body is on Atlantic Golf Course?
Yes, Shorts Pond is actually on the Atlantic Golf Course property.
And do we have a trail easement through that?
Yes, we do have a trail easement. So the trail easement actually currently comes along the corner and down. So this would allow the trail access to be, to navigate these 2 properties and then get out to Scuttle Hole Road. There was a mistake in the original meets and bounds description of the trail easement, which either stopped or essentially went over Shorts Pond.
So there are 2 developable lots, each though would have just 1 house,
Correct, yes.
and it's $6.8 million for the 2, so it's
Correct,
average of 3.4 million each.
correct.
These 2 pieces of property, in between the 2, there is a glen that travels to the northwest. And through the glen, it drains many, many acres of farm fields and residential fields. And that particular area is a red maple swamp that acts to filter the water as it goes through that area and goes into Shorts Pond. It's an interesting piece of property.
Yes, I
That
did
map
wanna-
doesn't show it. but-
Thank you, Tommy John, because I did want to bring that to the board's attention again as well, because these properties do have easements. But, you know, some people call it the gully, but there is sometimes, you know, running water in this location, which is another reason it's important for wetland preservation and to preserve that watershed.
Is there, it looks like there's clearing already on the eastern lot?
That was historic farming activity.
So if these were not acquired for preservation, they would have homes on them and be cleared? Are there limits to how much they can be cleared?
There are limits because of the wetland restrictions, so
And
there would be
we
required.
not be able to get the trails through there if they were developed?
Correct.
We would not be able to get
No,
the
we would
trails
not.
through. Is this in an aquifer protection overlay?
I believe so.
So they couldn't clear all the property, but,
Although some of it would be grandfathered with the existing historic clearing from the farming operation. Correct.
But it's also in our target area as well.
Yes,
for
it
all-
is.
all the reasons.
Yeah, for
right?
agricultural and open
Yeah.
space. But it also meets, I feel like it almost hits, most of our categories for wetland preservation, trail, open space.
but this is not, we're not looking at this as agriculture.
We are not.
So what would happen is that to the area that's cleared for agriculture?
It would revert passively to native vegetation. There's no opportunity really adjacent to it. It's all currently being developed or has been developed, so there's no way to, it would be a small, probably an acre, but this used to all be farmed together and was subdivided previously.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Fenlon.
Thank you.
All
I did
right,
want to thank the Held family. It's been a pleasure working with them, so I did want to thank them as well.
Is there anyone, I don't have any cards indicating they want to be heard at public hearing number 1. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard at public hearing number 1 who's present here? Okay. Charles, we still don't have the hybrid function up, right? All right, so we need to leave the record open 2 weeks. We can do it written record. Right, Jim, is that
Yes,
fine?
yep, I believe.
All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, but leave the written record open for written comments for 2-week period? So what's that date, Sunday?
2 weeks from today would be the 27th.
Until June 27th,
Second?
seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to the second public hearing notice. Madam Clerk?
Public hearing number 2, to consider the acquisition of development rights at 771 and PO 791 Sagaponic Main Street, PO 135 Gibson Lane, 26, and PO 60 Daniels Lane, Village of Sagaponic, and to amend the CPF Management Stewardship Plan to include the properties.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Jacqueline Fenlon, our CPF Program Manager, again, will introduce this.
Yes, and I just wanted to clarify, the PO means part of.
Part
So
of,
part of,
okay,
yes.
thank you, I
Yeah,
was
'cause the,
wondering.
yes, the easement is going to be covering this portion, so I'll explain that. But yes, these are separate properties. We have been working really diligently on the contract for this one, just because it's technical in nature, because there's a lot line modification going on with the Village of Sagaponic that we acknowledge, and that will be a requirement that got filed as a condition of the acquisition resolution. But this is 7.8 acres of land located at the addresses described by the town clerk. And it's Suffolk County Tax Map Number 908-9-12.12, 12.3, 13, and 14 in the Village of Sagaponic. And the owners have expressed an interest of selling the development rights for $10 million even, with the description in the next whereas for the breakdown of who is getting which funds. So I just wanted to explain that there is a lot line modification, which I'll note to you here, between 12.3 and 13. So you can see 13 originally is a square, there's a lot line modification, so this house would be excluded from the development rights. So between 13 and 12.3, there's a lot line modification. So it's gonna carve out that existing dwelling on the corner of Gibson Lane and Cemetery Road. And then also, we are excluding from the development rights the existing residence on tax lot 8. The rest will be covered by the agricultural development rights easement.
Is that the way we appraised it?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Okay, and this is a in use as a horse farm.
Yes.
Our acquisition of development rights doesn't limit it to horse farm. It limits it to any ag market
Correct.
allowed use.
Yes.
It is a highly visible piece along Daniels Lane.
It is. Yep, and it
It
does
gives
allow,
it-
I believe there has been historic horse shows, so it does allow for the horse shows to continue.
Through the village approvals, right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, just for clarification for the
Mhm.
public, it's also in an agricultural overlay, like open space target area as well,
Yes.
these properties. Thank you.
Yep.
So, I just want to thank the Topping family for working with us on this. This Sagaponic area, it's getting harder and harder to acquire land because of the high valuations, and this is a below-market acquisition, and we appreciate their willingness to protect the farmland through a town acquisition of development rights.
Yes.
All right, we'll go to the public. I don't have any cards on this. Is there anyone wishing to be heard on this possible acquisition? And Charlie, we're still not up and running online, right?
That is correct.
All right, so we're gonna have to keep the record open on this. I'll do the same as last time. We'll close the public hearing, but leave the written record open till June 27th was the date, I think?
June
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Okay, we'll move on to public hearing number 3, Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 3 for enforcement action at 1 Squires Pond Road, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900, 175-1-4, for unsanitary condition water supply.
Mr. Supervisor, we heard this last board meeting, Sean had presented at the time. The question was concerning an operable water line, and that was the main concern about this property, so I'm not sure why we held it open.
To hear from the homeowner, I
From
believe.
homeowners? I haven't heard anything back concerning the homeowner or any further, on any other issues involved on the property, so we were just looking, if there's any other comments, we're looking to close the hearing for today and take whatever actions necessary to secure the site as far as the.
Is there a resolution on
Yes.
for adoption? Okay, is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard at public hearing number 3 on authorizing enforcement action at 1 Squires Pond Road? All right, seeing none, Charlie, still no Zoom, right?
That is correct.
All right, we have to leave it open, Jim. We won't be
Yeah,
able to
that's
act on the
fine.
resolution, so
That's fine.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing, but leave the written.
I think we've secured the site, at least temporarily for now.
Let's leave the written record open again until June 27th.
Second?
Second by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Madam Clerk, the 4th public hearing notice.
Public hearing number 4, to consider a local law amending Chapter 244, Transfer of Development Rights Certificate Program to acknowledge the inclusion of sanitary flow credits.
Janice, are you presenting this? Janice,
There was 2 public hearings.
3, I think. right?
3.
3.
And we're just asking those to be adjourned until July while we work through the comments with the health department on the
Okay,
TDRs. Yeah.
All right, thank you. What date, July?
27.
No, that's June 27th.
Or-
It's the next
Yeah,
one.
June 27. You want it to July? 11th?
All right, so this was explained these are all continuations of hearings that Planning Director Wilcox had presented at the last public hearing. So we just have to do one after the other. But our head of town planning and development is asking for a July 11th adjournment. All right, anybody from the public wishing to be heard on this? Ms. Lombardi?
So it gave me pause for concern that, 3 times this has been delayed by Suffolk County.
And the Suffolk County letter does state that you all are asking, for twice the sanitary credits that you're buying. And as it is, the town currently has, and I know the final regulations are not out, I'm hoping they'll be republished before you have a public hearing, number one. Number two, it's concerning to me that the town is the primary owner of a lot of these credits now, the development rights. And you just said, Supervisor Snyderman, where Sagaponic's property is so valuable that it needs to be saved. So where are you going to use these credits? In Hampton Bays, where the assessed valuation is 50% of the rest of the town of Southampton, and look to develop residential property with twice the sanitary
They're
code?
sort of locked into the school district, so no, they can't go.
I understand, I do. I understand generally, not to the level of you all, but I'm very concerned. As you're using these using the sanitary credits, why don't you just, extinguish them? You have development rights, you bought them with CPF monies to save property, right? To protect all of our land. To now turn around and say, well, we want to use them, we want to transfer them for housing projects and use twice as much as the sanitary code. And they go on to say, well, like exactly what housing? And are you going to do a secret review? And this has been my concern from when I've got involved with you all for the past 8 years. To me, it's zoning by, throw the spaghetti against the ceiling and see if it'll stick, sound bites. We need to look at what's happening in our communities and not do this level of spot zoning. So I really hope when you guys finally put a new regulation together, you publish it so that everybody can review it, and we have a meaningful discussion about the use of these credits. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, anybody else wishing to be heard on this? Ray, did you want to speak on
Can
it?
Janice speak real quick?
Okay.
Because I think there's a misunderstanding.
Janice, you want to just correct anything there? or-
Yeah, you left your notes here, Ms. Unlock. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Janice. Good afternoon, Janice Scherer, Town Planning and Development Administrator. Just to clear that up a little bit, we already have a TDR program. We've had a TDR program for many, many years. Our TDR program allocates development rights and certificates for persons who want. You may be familiar with this system with the Pine Barrens, how we issue development rights certificates in the Pine Barrens because they have no rights to build there, and so they get a certificate and then they can utilize that certificate elsewhere. Same thing with our development rights. People who own property want development rights certificates. Sometimes they don't want to develop their property, or they have a multitude of reasons why they want a development rights certificate, and we issue those certificates to property owners. We want the health department to recognize our system so that each person doesn't have to go to the board of review every time. And this is a process that the health department wants us to engage in. And other municipalities have done it already, Smithtown, Huntington, etc. They get their programs recognized, and that helps property owners not get stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare at the health department because they understand our system and we're following their rules. The double the density in the groundwater management zone is a county health department standard, and that's been that way for many, many years. They are very, very strict. You cannot transfer things out of school districts. You have to be in the same groundwater management zone. There's a lot of requirements, and we are making sure we're adhering to everything they wanted us to adhere to. And at the same time, our code is already on the books right now today. This whole thing is about just having them recognize it, so somebody doesn't have to go through an additional process. That's what this is all about, so thank you.
The double
Thank you.
density is a maximum that
That's
somebody
a
can-
maximum density standard at the health
Right.
department, and you it's not as of right, you have to transfer credits to get there.
Right.
So, and you can't go beyond that, so that's a stopgap.
You don't get double density to use
You
that
don't get
credit.
double density.
That credit's worth whatever credit's worth at the county health department, but
Yeah.
only up to double the allowable density.
Right, and so anybody who's involved in property development, sometimes you want to put a restaurant and you can't meet the flow requirements, so you need sewage credits. So we amended our code to underline, you'll see it says sewage credits, so that our TDRs can be utilized for that purpose. Our certificates already say everything on there. development rights, sewage credit, clearing restrictions, like we have, you know, your property rights are a bundle of rights. So they're allocated all on that certificate. This whole program is about having the health department recognize what we already do and have been doing for many years. Thank you.
Dennis.
Thank you for the primer.
Mr. Ray, Mr. D'Angelo.
Ray D'Angelo, Hampton Bays. After hearing that, you have to understand that we don't have a lot of confidence in the town's planning board and zoning board of appeals, and also the planning department. We want the health department to have final say in this. We welcome the county involvement in this, because there's a lack of confidence that over the last years that I've been involved with this has developed, because we've seen what's going on. So, yes, we do want the county health department involved. We don't have any trust or faith in what's going on here prior to that. So that's our opinion. That's really basically what this comes down to, a lack of trust. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else who wishes to be heard? All right, and we're gonna treat the three of these the same, but we'll just do each one separately. So, Charles, no Zoom, right?
No, sir.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to close public hearing number
No,
4,
no,
but
no,
We're
leave.
adjourning.
No.
We're just adjourning everything till the
To
13th.
July
With
11th.
We have to adjourn it, right,
Right.
thank you. This is a little different than the others. We're gonna continue it on the July 11th, so I'll make a motion to adjourn the hearing to July 11th.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. All right, Madam Clerk, would you read the 5th public hearing notice?
Public hearing to consider a local law amending Chapter 330-7, acknowledging transfer of sanitary flow credits.
All right, so
The same.
this is all connected to the same thing. Does anybody wishes to be heard on it? And we have no Zoom. I'll make a motion to adjourn the hearing to July 11th.
Same second.
The same second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Madam Clerk, the 6th.
Public hearing number 6, to consider a local law amending Chapter 330-9, density incentive provision to acknowledge the inclusion of sanitary flow credits.
All right, and again, we're waiting on county comments. Is there anybody who wants to be heard? All right, and no Zoom. I will make a motion to adjourn it to July 11th.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, so that brings us to public hearing number 7. Madam Clerk?
Public hearing number 7, to amend Town Code Chapter 312-62 to implement a parking by permit only pilot program at Wildwood Lake Park for weekends and federal holidays, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Labor Day, from May 15th to September 15th for a 1-year period.
Do we have anybody introducing this?
I was expecting Kristen or Sean.
We have been meeting, myself and Sean Cambridge and Kristen Doulis have been meeting concerning the issues involved with the overcrowding, particularly on Sunday mornings over at the Wildwood Lake area. And this, the intent of this resolution was to provide for permit parking only on the weekends.
So, Jim,
Federal
just to
holidays.
refresh my memory, so this property was a bowling alley. It's no longer a bowling alley. It's been purchased by a church, right?
That's correct. yeah.
And the old arrangement was the parking for the bowling alley was available, but to anyone, but if you had a permit, you didn't have to pay a town permit, and if you
That's correct.
if you
Right now,
didn't
there's
have a
no,
permit, you could still park there, but you'd pay like $15 or something, and that was collected by the former bowling alley.
that's correct.
And now,
we-
this proposal uses the same parking lot, but
Right.
says it's town parking permit
The town
only.
owns like kind of a horseshoe around, if you're familiar with the property, the bowling alley's kind of in the center of the property, fronting on the road. And the town, CPF had purchased around it, sort of like a horseshoe around the property. And also, and then the property right on the lake is actually owned by the trustees. So that was, right, the bowling alley operator was controlling the parking by we were charging the $15.
Was it on our land or on their land?
It was on
Both?
essentially both, yeah.
Both.
Yeah, if the people weren't using it for, if they
And
weren't
it
going
was, it
bowling.
was successful.
Yeah,
at
it was
that time,
controlling
because we
the,
had someone there.
now the bowling alley was purchased by a local church who's in the process of renovating the bowling alley right now. And, so there are issues. It seems to be Sunday mornings, Sundays are the busiest day by far.
For the church or for the park?
Well, the church is not open yet, so, yeah, I think once the church is there, it'll actually be better, but it's gonna take them about a year or so to, get online as far as, converting the property to the church. So right now, the idea here was to try to control, the overcrowding in the area by having a permit parking only, for weekends and holidays for the summertime. And seeing how, if that can control it. I was at the site this week with Dan and Jackie from CPF, as well as Kristen and some of the town park workers. And we had previously met with PD on this. Councilman Martell was in some meetings, looking to see how we could kind of control things until the church is up and running. And it'll be about a year or so.
So the biggest change is,
There's really no one there right now monitoring the parking.
there's nobody
No.
monitoring
Right,
it.
right.
to
We could
collect the
try to,
15 does.
we've talked with PD to have them maybe go through once in a while, maybe have TCO or whatnot, but, and it really seems to be the day, like, we were there on,
Are most of the users town residents or?
it's hard to say. It's really mostly local from the area, whether it's, whether it's town or
Yeah, I
it's
think coming out
Riverhead
of
or
COVID, there's a lot more
outside of the town, yeah,
out-of-towners
right.
that use that park.
Because the park staff worker that was there that day, talking to, he kind of works for Kristen. He said a lot of people, to his knowledge, were people from from up the island or even from the city and so, so we're not really sure.
So my hope was with the new owner there, we could enter into a similar
Right.
arrangement
Right,
that worked
right,
pretty
right.
well.
But that's at least a year away
Right.
from that, so.
So in
we
the
thought
meantime, we have no one there, and we need some way to
We need some
control parking.
type of temporary way to at least control the situation at this point. We're concerned a little bit how, that if we make it permit parking here, it might push things out to the streets a little bit, but we're just gonna have to work to try to control things.
Still, I know I imagine a lot of people don't want those who don't live in the town to use the park. It is close to the border of another town though, in Riverhead.
Oh, yeah, it's right on the border.
And Brookhaven.
And Brookhaven, and, having some sort of day pass where somebody could pay to use it on a limited basis. Obviously, we have to control how many people are there.
Yeah.
Uh,
It produces a lot of, from the staff that was there the other day when we met with Kristen and her staff. It produces a lot of garbage, from that day, and that's one of the issues as well.
Yeah, and, I'm trying to create a balance and not be exclusionary here.
Right, of course.
Because there's people up in Flanders Riverside who
Right.
may want to use parks in Riverhead, and we don't want those parks to say, no, only Riverhead,
No.
or only Brookhaven,
Right.
And
And it's a beautiful place, but it's, the beach area really is very, very small. There are other areas on the lake. I think the state owns some property across on the other side of the lake. But the area we're talking about is, the parking lot itself is relatively small. And then the area where the beachfront is, it's very narrow. It's a beautiful little spot, but it's not, very large at all.
is there a comfort station there?
There is a comfort station. We put it in, I guess,
No lifeguard there, right?
no lifeguards at this point now.
No, and that was the condition before we entered into agreement with the bowling alley, because the same problems existed. It was hard for parks to maintain, also to control.
Yeah.
So this worked out really well, and then we're kind of back to where we started a number of years ago. Hopefully this will be a short.
Memorial Day
period of
weekend,
time.
it was difficult. That Sunday on Memorial Day, Kristen was saying it was pretty bad. It was pretty busy, and it was an overflow into the streets, I believe, and the garbage, it was pretty intense. Her staff member says it takes them pretty much the full day on Monday to clean up the place. The place was, actually, when we were there last Friday, the place was beautiful. They did a wonderful job maintaining the site, quite frankly, but.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna hold this open as we need to,
Yeah.
I was really expecting someone from code enforcement or even PD to be here, to be able to respond to, you know, some of the issues that are
Yeah,
going on right now.
I can ask
to
Kristen to have
resolve.
this, one of her staff, kind of describe what, what the Sundays are like. But we've met with PD and we've met with code and, I mean, I know Ryan's out of town and I got Sean's out today too, so, but, yeah, we can talk about it
Yeah,
more.
I'd like to do that because, you know, I remember what it was like before. If it's anything like that, we would really want to be sure that our code enforcement.
It was
is
pretty
gonna be
busy
on
from what
top.
I hear
Yeah.
from, I don't know how it was this past Sunday, but the Memorial Day weekend, I know, was very
Yeah,
intense.
during COVID, you know, I've checked on it a lot of times, and it was definitely a lot of out-of-towners as far west as you can imagine coming out, staying probably well into the night hours. We're trying to get away from all that. You know, I apologize to the Riverhead border residents, but we're trying to make it permit only, so it's Southampton Town residents. Then we can scan the parking lots, we can read the license plates, we know who's there.
Right.
We don't really have a way to monitor it ourselves. It's not a park that we lifeguard and have an attendant at this time. That's why Kristen suggested we try this pilot program of, you know, stickers only and see how that works out. The problems down the road, I don't totally agree, Jim, that there's gonna be a great solution after the church is open, because I
No.
feel we're gonna have less access on the weekends. But that's something we'll work out later. This is just for this summer at best.
Right, right. And we have signage, yeah, we have signage as far as,
We can
like
also,
most of our signs, not allowing for alcoholic beverages
I mean,
and
people can buy a
garbage and whatnot.
non-resident parking sticker too. We sell those. Expensive.
Right. But there's no attendant to say, give them a daily
Right,
pass there.
that's the
Yeah.
No
whole
dailies,
issue.
yeah, no dailies, but you can buy a seasonal pass.
Sure.
It's expensive.
It was rough. It was very,
Listen.
I mean, some of the nights I was there, it was parking right up to the highway. He had
Can I
cars
ask
all
why-
over, and it was
Why
very
is the
tough.
park allowed to be open at night? Why doesn't it close at sunset?
It's not.
Well, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
They just stay.
They just stay.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's-
you'll hear
it's-
from the group, there's a
It's
lot
an
of people here.
enforceability issue, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's really why, I know Kristen had suggested this, and I think it's a, you know, it's a good idea, but we also need to assure the public that we're working with code enforcement and the
Right.
police to be sure that this is enforced.
Yeah, and speaking of
properly.
Ryan, we talked about some type of, enhanced security there. I mean, PD can only do so much. They can, they said they could have somebody kind
Why
of
don't
go
we
through
have-
occasionally on the.
Why don't we
on the
put a
back.
video camera there?
There is a video camera there, but I don't know if it works, but we can follow up on it. There was one installed a while back, I guess, when the comfort station was put in. I think the comfort station was put in, Kristen thought it was like around 2008 or so.
Are our residents in Flanders Riverside allowed to go to Riverhead Parks?
Yeah,
I don't know the answer.
that depends probably
Depends
on
on-
which park. But,
Yeah.
all right.
I mean, if
So-
that's the case, we could do something for Riverhead.
We could
there.
do, you
But
know,
I know it's
Well, we have-
complicating it, but,
We have some
A special
arrangements, as
Wildwood
you know,
permit?
like Sag Harbor, we have a
right, the Long Beach
arrangement.
thing, yeah.
Right, with 3 beaches, with Scott Cameron, I think, and Mecox, and with Long Beach, right?
Mhm.
So we could create a special parking pass that you buy for just
why don't we-
Wildwood Lake. You
It'd be
could,
a lot of public to
could do that, yes.
weigh in,
Yeah,
see what they've done.
And that'd be tough. It's a scene down there. It's like 400 people.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear how it was this past Sunday, but Kristen said Memorial Day, there was overflowing onto the surrounding area, which is.
Yeah, we have other beaches though where when it's full, it's closed, right?
Right,
No-
right.
There's no more parking, sorry.
Well, then, yeah, we can consider, do we want to, we can address the parking on the surrounding area and the streets too. Consider putting, permit parking only and no parking on the surrounding streets as
Well,
well.
that could
That can
happen
impact-
here, because we can't keep people from using the park if they're just gonna have to,
Well, that
Park
was the
further
issue
away.
originally. We had no attendance, we had nobody there to be able to control anything. So it was a boon when the owner of the bowling alley assumed that responsibility and managed it fairly well. I don't know how it's gonna work out with the church, it was my
Right,
hope
right.
that it
If, you know,
would, but it's
yeah.
something that needs to be solved.
Be an issue, like Councilman Martell says, obviously, you know, the Sunday's a busy day for the beach, and it's obviously a very busy day for the church, at least in the morning, so we'll have to address that issue too. That's gonna impact the.
So
parking.
it would be, my suggestion, we obviously have to keep this open, but at the next public hearing, that we have code enforcement there I'm gonna stress that, so.
They can ask Ryan to come and.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the public. I do have a number of cards on this. So we'll start with Alan Perkowski. And just to move things along, I'll tell you who's on deck. Chris Sheldon, you're on deck.
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board, and our Town Clerk. I sat back there and listened to everybody give their discussions. Sounds great, but why don't you come and knock on the door? I live right next door. You wanna know what's going on? I'll show you some of the pictures that I've taken. It was a great idea what the police did, come up and blocked off areas within the parking spaces. But you know where they went and parked? Out on the road, up on the hill, down the hill. There's, I'll say 400 cars. That's how many park there. Not just on Fridays. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday and Sunday, some of those people that sleep over from Friday night. It's nice that you want to put a parking permit there, but put somebody there to control it. Because these people came, where they came from, probably 75% of them don't live in the town of Southampton. Because when they leave, you watch them drive west. They don't come east, they drive west. And there's a town line right out there. Bathrooms have been closed since COVID. One porta potty sits out there. There's 4 garbage pails as you walk to the beach area. There's also signs that say, no swimming. You're gonna give them a permit to do what? They're not gonna stay on the land. So, you're a jeopardy, I'm a jeopardy. But I would like, I understand you were over there, but a knock on the door would be nice.
Sure.
I didn't know the bowling alley was sold. The parking arrangements, I heard the cops over there, so I went over to ask them what they were doing. They didn't write tickets even. I called them. There was too many cars to write tickets for. So they didn't write tickets. No enforcement. You got land out west, just like you did 40 years ago, you forget about. I don't know how many of you have ever driven there to look at the area. It is a beautiful area. But it's being neglected. So, if you think of putting a parking permit there, I sit next door. I listen to the music, I hear the screaming, I hear the hollering, but I put up with it. I figure when it's 80 degrees outside, they gotta swim somewhere. You're gonna swim in that lake, no matter how many signs you put up. And there's also, I believe, cameras there. They watch the garbage pails. They don't watch the people. I had a lady knock on my door 3 weeks ago. She had trouble over at the park. I called the local PD, they were too busy. Called the state police, they were there within 3 minutes. 2 cars. Our guys are too busy. There's 2 sector cars that we realize in our area, but if West Hampton is busy, they send the second car out there. So that guy, him up at the circle. I know we need a lot of things, folks, but the parking permit is a good idea. But enforce it, please enforce it. The bathrooms, like I said, it's a porta potty.
30
That's
seconds.
what they have there. It's emptied weekly. I know.
Well, when I was there Friday, though, the staffer says those bathrooms are open on
They
Sundays.
just opened them then.
They
but
open
they've
on
been
the
closed.
weekends, I guess.
I started
It was
out-
closed when I was there Friday, but he says they're open on weekends because they clean them 3 or 4 times during the day on the weekends. It's because they
Well,
get so much use.
I started out X number of years ago cleaning the bathrooms myself. I was hired by the town. If you want to look over the records, Alan Pikowski was the one that had to submit the letter to get $25 for the day. I opened them and I closed them and I cleaned them every single morning. So, you know, I asked the town to put some new lines up, didn't do no lines. Power wash the building, no power washing of the building. Take the drinking fountain off the wall and put, so the washing of the feet, instead of putting their feet in the sinks in the building and tearing the sinks off the walls. Do have a history with the place.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I do have a very much history with it. And we hear about, the tapes are good. I can show you pictures of where they put the tapes. Let's say there's 50 parking spaces around there, they covered up at least 30 of them. At least 30 of them. That's why they were double parked on the roads. They parked up at the old gas station, They parked up in the development and they walked in. They walked right in. That's the way it goes, gentlemen and ladies. Lady. But please, if you are gonna park by permit, put some control there for it. And it's no swimming, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
All right,
Good now.
Chris, you are next, followed by Ted Brakowski.
My name's Chris Sheldon. I live at Wildwood Lake. I'm a member of FRANCA, which stands for Flanders Riverside Northampton Community Association. We're here to give you full support as to what you're trying to do. We think it's a first step. Thank you. But there's got to be many more steps here. And you need to know the history of what happened. 1995, the state DEC, through a court proceeding, got access to Wildwood Lake. And it took it away from the town trustees. And the town trustees didn't like that. The state DEC had access on the east side of the lake. And on a Sunday morning, when there would be nobody on the lake, there were 50 boats on the lake. They were coming from everywhere. So the town trustees, just so everybody knows, there's two different there's a town board and there's a town trustees. Town trustees approached the local community association about the beach. They would like access. And the association was behind in taxes. They had meetings and they discussed it and they said, let's give it to the town trustees. And together with the town board, the beach will be a town beach. Pretty nice. However, the town trustees and the town board perhaps didn't work together. One thing led to another. Over $1 million was spent by the town board to acquire land from the bowling alley, to create the restrooms, the parking, the drainage, the lighting, and the planning. Easily $1 million. So you got the beach for nothing, you spent $1 million, and you walked away. You didn't finish the job. Finishing a job requires a lifeguard and control and permits. So thank you, this is the first step, and what we need from you is perhaps a monthly get-together with a couple of the council people to move this thing forward, okay? I guess if you have a town budget coming up, if there's a way to get to the town budget pace where more funding can be found to finish the beach, that would be great. So we're here to say thank you, and let's keep moving forward.
Chris, I have a question on the history there. You said the beach was originally property of who?
The homeowners association.
And then you mentioned the state was involved?
The state won a court battle, and the state wanted access to Wildwood Lake, and they won. And the town trustees were not happy about that, neither were we.
Was that I'm sorry, was it, who
Back
were
in
the
the
parties
90s.
besides the state?
No, it was
was-
back in the 90s in the state DEC. And
Was the town involved in that litigation or no?
the town trustees,
The town trustees?
yeah.
It-
So
it
the
was
town trustees
It
appealed,
was
is
the
this correct?
trustees who litigated. Yeah,
Is that-
you're right, it was the trustees who litigated
Right,
on that.
right.
Keep going. Then there
So
was
the town trustees appealed, and they won. But part of that appeal, the town trustees needed access to Wildwood Lake. The state already had access on the other side of the lake, so the town had to show the court, well, we have access to. And they searched and they found our community association. We were drowning in the taxes, and we said, yes, let's work with the trustees so everybody wins. Well, we haven't won yet.
So Jim, I just need you just to check on that beach itself, to make sure there's no restrictions that would make it so that we couldn't make it town only.
Yeah.
So there might be, because there was litigation there involving the state, if we make it so that only town residents can use it, we may run afoul of a prior
Well,
decision.
check out the litigation. Chris is correct that the beachfront area is actually owned by the trustees, I believe.
Correct. It's a 3/4 acre parcel
Yeah.
that stretches the beach.
Yeah.
The town acquired about 5 or 6 acres from the
Right.
bowling alley.
The
And that's where the
around
problem
parking
was
You
lot.
say
created
there
as
was-
far as the park.
There are occasional parcels where we're prohibited from making it, restricting just to town residents because there's state money involved, the county money involved, things like that too. We just want to
Sure.
make sure we have that answer before we go ahead with
I
it.
think if your board and the town trustees can sit together and figure this out, everybody might be able to win. I think a solution is the town trustees gives to the town board the beach. So now you have a complete picture. But the town gives the town trustees access to the lake.
Yeah, we could sort something out.
Yeah. The regulation would be just, we clearly own our portion of the parking, but actually, when the town purchased that property, there was kind of a cross easement for parking for the existing bowling alley business and CPF, so, we have that issue also. We have a kind of a joint parking agreement with the owners of that property, and their small portion of their parking lot wraps around tightly around the building, and then our property expands beyond that, kind of a horseshoe around the bowling alley building.
Chris, was this ever in the jurisdiction of the village of Pine Valley?
Oh, yeah.
That-
And then,
And was
that's
the
another
beach-
story. But what
Did-
triggered the village effort was that town beach.
Yeah.
How
That's
do
right,
we
yeah.
save the beach? Let's help create our own
Exactly.
government, that
Right.
kind of thing. So it was all good intentional.
And did the village ever have ownership of the beach, is my question?
No, no.
Okay.
That came after. The
There
ownership,
was some
the
easement
ownership happened in
questions about
'95, the village efforts ended in the early '90s.
Right.
So, another solution might be, as far as controlling the population there, is a police substation. You have one in Bridgehampton. Maybe on the other side of the town, if you had a police substation, either on the property or there's an abandoned gas station on the other side of the lake. The point is, police presence might help control.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Okay.
All right, Ted Berkowitz is next. Ted,
stuff.
you're followed by Angela Hunault.
Good afternoon, Town Board and Supervisor. Thank you for giving the residents of Wildwood Lake and Northampton the opportunity to address this crisis that we have on our hands. I've been living on the lake. I have about 300 feet of lakefront with my home that my wife and I bought 29 years ago. I've seen the situation go from bad to worse, much worse. And we have several problems at my location. I live next door to the boat launch that the DEC put up. While the town won in court through the Dung and Patent to only have Southampton residents fish there, you get a lot of swimmers there. The overflow from that beach, when there is no more parking, or people didn't want to pay the $10, $15 cost to get in that the bowling alley owner was charging, they would try to swim next door to us. It was very noisy. There were no swimming signs everywhere. The DEC says no swimming and any other activity other than fishing or boating is prohibited, but nobody patrols. The DEC has no one to go there and patrol.
And Ted, I'm sorry, you're directly across, you're on the other side of the lake.
Directly
basically.
across from Mr. Perkowski's home, on the other side
the
of the
other side.
lake, I'm the second house. And every weekend, pretty much, for the last 12 years, I have calls from neighbors, Ted, where's that music coming from? Well, I say, you know where the music is coming from. Now, they can't hear it on that side of the lake because the acoustics and the wind brings it right to our side. People, like where Mr. Comer lives, he lives probably 1/8 of a mile from me on Topping Drive. His wife called me the other night at 10:30 saying, where's that noise coming from? They hear it all the way up there. The police come and they say, well, it's acceptable dB levels and this and that. And I said, you know, I was a lifeguard on Long Beach for 2 years. No one blasted a radio. No one would even had a radio. I don't know of anybody on Ponquag Beach that has a radio, or Sagaponack Beach, or Main Beach that has a radio going. I don't understand why that town beach, that town park allows it, okay? The other thing is, there were no parking signs on that road. I think some have been removed. When I went out there last week, there were probably 50 cars parked on that road. Plus, they took down all the no parking yellow police tapes that were prohibiting people from parking on the church property, and people just took it down and parked anyway. I met with the police there. I called that day. I was told by the dispatcher that the supervising sergeant was already there. So I went down and spoke with him. 3 of your cars were there. I think there's a much better use for your police than coming for noise complaints and parking complaints and drunken activities on that beach. These people,
That was this weekend?
it was, I guess, Memorial
Oh, Memorial.
Weekend. Yeah, but every weekend, this weekend was pretty good. The word gets out. These people who come from Up Island, when we know where they come from, they're all tuned into one another. If somebody gets a ticket, the word spreads like wildfire. And that's the way you have to instruct the police to patrol, because after a while, they won't be writing tickets. Things will be fine. I go to Dune Road. I go down to the Shinnecock. I park my car. I've got my sticker. By the way, it just went up $10 for us seniors.
30 seconds.
But that's okay. We park there. I know the traffic control is there periodically, and they will write people. Why are we any different? Why has Northampton been treated the way it's been treated all these years? This could not happen in Bridgehampton or Watermill
3 minutes.
or anywhere else in the township except in Northampton or Riverside or maybe Flanders, okay? That's how the people feel here. They're frustrated. They know what's been going on, okay? And I'm hoping that you guys and ladies can right the wrong. You've been given this opportunity to do the right thing by us. And we would really appreciate it if you did the right thing by us, okay? Thank you.
Thank you,
And that's
sir.
the idea, that we have to have the restrictions in place before we can enforce it.
All right, Angela, you are next. Angela will be followed by Janet Roche.
Hi, Angela Unold, President of Franca. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Town Council. We, the members of Franca, support moving this forward. We would like the by permit only. We do have a few questions. Some have already been answered, but I wouldn't be doing the community justice that have asked me to ask these questions. One thing, Tommy, if we want to, if Southampton residents want to do anything in Riverhead, we pay higher price. And the same with their parks and, you know, they're all of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Why only weekends and holidays? Kids are gonna get out of school now. So the park is gonna be, I mean, we've already heard it's been used more than just the weekends. But now we're running into the summertime when the kids are gonna be out and the moms are gonna be bringing. So why did we just go weekends and holidays? Is it just because it's a pilot?
It was pretty much that. We thought the majority of the issues were in the weekends, but if we're wrong, we could consider that.
Okay, thank you. How will this be enforced? Which, I mean, everyone has already asked that question. Then I understand that there are no alcohol signs, but yet the garbage pails were overflowed with the coronavirus. The music, yes, I will repeat the gentleman before me. I go to all our beaches. I have my beach permit. I'm not hearing music. We all we're respecting each other. We're there to just enjoy the ocean or enjoy the Peconic Bay. There's none of that extra noise. So I don't understand why this park, amplified music. I mean, when I go to Red Creek, I have to sign that I'm not doing amplified. When I go to Yeah, the other park that I use all the time. Oh my gosh, the one in the Riverside.
Ludlam.
Ludlam, thank you. I have to sign that I'm not doing amplified, no, I'm not gonna have amplified music. On Lakeview Drive and on Old East Merch's Riverhead Road, I know the gentleman already mentioned it. All those no parking signs have been removed. There have been no parking signs, and they're all gone, on both the north and the south side of the road. Eventually, that church will be there. And a concern also is that, yes, there was with the bowling alley, and they were doing the $15. The church is gonna have church on Sunday. I don't even know where they're gonna park.
Right.
And what's stopping then, I just worshiped, I'm gonna go throw my bathing suit on, or I already have it on, and now I'm just not gonna leave my car, I'm gonna leave my car, and I'm just gonna go right over to the beach.
Yeah.
And, we already know that this church is a big church, they already worship in Riverhead. I also would like to bring the attention, and it might be on your radar already, but they had stated, the church had stated that they purchased Wildwood, they're not gonna change the outside, because that's not gonna be their permanent home. So while we know that's not gonna be their permanent home, that they had bought property in Jamesport, Aquabog, 8.6 acres, because they want to build a church there. I know some are moving on, but if we can put this, I don't know, written up somewhere, that when they decide to leave, they're gonna sell it, they're gonna wanna sell it, can we try to purchase it? Cause that would have been awesome if we had grabbed it when we could have, because then I think this would have solved some of our problems. But, that's
We tried.
everything. Thank you.
We did try to,
We
we did try
did.
to acquire it this
Yeah.
time, but the attorney who I was in communication with quite a bit ended up just not kind of giving the town a last chance kind of thing, so
Gotcha.
the church just basically outbid us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So Angela, we'll check into the parking sign situation. I will tell you, this is the same thing that we've done in other parts of town when we have an issue, and we still have issues. We've had excessive overnight camping in Red Creek and West Landing and North Sea. We have these issues all over. So we're taking the same course of actions pretty much that we did everywhere else. And that gets us to a final conclusion of what actually needs to be done in the area. It will take us until, the church gets established to really get a feel of what's
Yes.
going on. We
Yes.
certainly don't want to push the cars into the neighborhoods. But, every no parking sign comes with the opportunity, if you have a party, you can't park out there. I mean,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of like we don't want to constantly push the problem into other areas.
Right.
So we're definitely taking a look at everything at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how many parking spaces the former bowling alley had, the new church has,
Yeah.
but we don't regulate their parking, so if,
Yeah.
You know,
It's actually gonna
somebody-
be an issue for them.
Yeah.
They have to go through,
you know,
they're
if
presently
we
going through
have per, town resident parking only, and somebody parks on their property,
Right.
we're not ticketing it.
Yeah.
It's up to them, it's private property.
Yeah,
And it's gonna be very challenging, and yeah, if one of their congregants decides to go to the park after church,
right.
then we don't regulate who's in the park, only the parking piece of it, so.
The church is actually going through the site plan review process with planning now, so parking is definitely an identifiable issue for them,
Yeah.
for the amount of people that it may be having
Yes.
at the church. So that's a real issue, that exists for them.
Yeah.
So that, how they're gonna address that, I'm not
And
sure.
churches, and I don't wanna scare you or create other issues, but churches also are not just used on Sundays,
Oh, yes. Oh, I know. Yes. Yeah.
right? They have
Oh,
all
yes.
kinds of different support groups
Yes.
and events and things like that, so.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Sometimes in the evenings and things like
Mhm.
that, so. And they're considered assembly halls.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Angela, thanks.
All right, all right, I got Janet Roche, followed by, Anaya, or I guess Renee Anaya.
Good afternoon. My name is Janet Roach. Our family has owned a home in Northampton for the past 60 years. I think before we try to solve, I think it's great having the permits. Before we try to solve this problem, though, I think that we need to really clarify how significant this problem is. I mean, it's not just an issue on Sunday mornings. It's not just an issue on weekends. When school closes in a couple weeks, it will be an issue 7 days a week. We already have people parking in our community. There is loud music, there is cursing, there is alcohol, okay? You know, and again, in the beginning of the pandemic, we were getting all these people coming from Nassau. I still think there's a significant number of people driving down from Nassau. The overcrowding was hundreds of people on weekends. 3 o'clock in the morning, they'd be having parties down there and they were drunk. So if we're gonna solve this problem, again, you know, we have no alcohol at Southampton beaches, the park closes at 9 o'clock. We're gonna need to institute some of that control here as well. It's not gonna be enough just to sell a parking pass at 9 o'clock in the morning and then have people staying till 3 o'clock in the morning. And several of the neighbors talked about the fact that we've called the police, and they're great. When they can come. During the pandemic, they would say to me, we're just too busy, we can't, and we understood that. But they would come at 7 o'clock, then the music would be down, then half an hour later, the music was back up again. We also have serious problems with the level of swimming capability of the people that are on the lake. I mean, there's small children that are floating out in the middle of the lake in a raft with no life preservers on. Last summer, we had a drowning. It actually was an adult, but he was in a kayak without his life preserver. The child fortunately had the life preserver on it, and it turned over, and the man died. So again, we're questioning. My sister can talk in a minute because she was a lifeguard down at the lake when it was our HOA. But you know, a lot of these children shouldn't even be out, you know, in the middle of the lake with no life preserver on, floating on things. The other problem we have on the lake is, you know, people trespassing on property. I have waterfront property. You know, they'll come across my lawn, they'll come in the yard, and they'll fish, and they'll net fish, which is illegal there, and they'll spear fishing. And I actually have some question, because we heard a lot about the sanitation at the beach and the fact that the bathrooms were closed for the 2 or 3 years during the pandemic. I would like to know if the water quality is being tested there. I would also like to know if they're checking licenses. I know when my brother was young and he had a fishing license, they used to come around and check the licenses for people who were fishing. But at one point during the pandemic, there were so many boats, so many rafts, so many people, hundreds of people that were floating around the lake. I mean, you know, I grew up there as a child. The quality of our life has been ruined. So again, I think it's a great start to do the permits, but unless we have a mechanism to enforce the rules that are at the other Southampton beaches, we're not gonna get to the level that we need to in terms of addressing this problem.
Yeah, and this kind of, we're doing this as a start to do this.
I understand,
right?
I understand it's a pilot. Right, but I mean, assuming you're selling permits, I mean, that's great if it's, you know, if it's just local people. But again, it's not gonna stop me from at 9 o'clock at night having to call the police.
Well, no, once we have the permits, we'll have signs up and there'll be parking restrictions that go along with the issuance of the permit.
But they
And then
ignore.
there's enforcement, then you can enforce.
Yeah, well, they ignored the parking restrictions before. Like I
Well-
said, they'll come right into our development and park along the streets, yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of enforcement.
Right,
obviously, yeah.
right, but again, if the park closes at 9 o'clock, what mechanism do we have to make sure that people clear out at 9 o'clock? That's the
That's the
issue.
enforcement issue.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one other card here. Renee, Anaya.
Good afternoon, Southampton Town Board. My name is Renee Stakey. I'm a lifelong resident. Well, I'd like to thank you first for the opportunity to speak. This is my first public hearing ever. It's very important to me that I speak on behalf of my community and the parking. I'm a liaison with the Wildwood Neighborhood Watch, and we are very much for this amendment to the town code, chapter 312 dash, I don't have my glasses on, 62, to implement the parking by permit only. We are for this. I personally have a question. It was my understanding that this pilot program was for, it was an app that was going to be used where the person, and we're speaking about stickers today. It was my understanding that it was going to be an app and that people would be registering through this app, and then when the...
So Renee, we said we had the meeting, we were there with PD
Okay.
and with code enforcement. The app idea is something that's in development stages for down the road, where we will go without stickers. You will have your license plate reader, so your license plate will be registered with the town. The next step would be hopefully you can get a day pass on an app. We're not at that state, so it has, right now, we're still sticker.
Okay.
And we're doing a pilot program at Tiana that has license plate readers. So that would be something down the road. So while you're here, I want to thank you for being at that meeting and to tell everybody that we did have code enforcement. We did have the police department at our meeting about Wildwood, and we were guaranteed that they would have extra enforcement from code and that we would do have more of a police presence there. So if you could just acknowledge that that was what they had told us at the meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
wanted to make sure I understood.
Thank you.
Are we indeed talking about stickers, or are we talking about an app? So thank you for that,
Just the
that
sticker at this point,
clarification.
yeah.
So just to clarify a little bit more on that, that's a town-wide program.
Okay.
And it's really contingent on Wi-Fi access as well to make sure that it's secure. So we're working on upgrading infrastructure and things like that. And Wildwood is definitely on that list, because when you come right down into Riverhead, there's absolutely the perfect place for that. But it does require, first the pilot to make sure it works, make sure there's nobody can get around it. But that's the goal, the future goal.
Yeah, it was important to have that clarification, so I know what I'm speaking about. We are also concerned about the environmental issues with all the people. Just this past Memorial Day, it was packed, 400 cars, diapers floating in the lake. It's a safety issue on County Road 51 with all the cars. The traffic is spilling onto both sides of the lake into the road, so there's a lot of issues, like I said, both environmental and on the roadways. And we also would like to see this program 7 days a week, not just on the weekends. The church is not open yet. We see what happens now without a church. Imagine on a church day with a parking lot full, and they're expanding the parking lot, adding parking. It still won't be enough. So as a member, as a liaison of the Wildwood Neighborhood Watch, we support this program wholeheartedly, but we also would like to present the possibility to have it 7 days a week, not just on holidays and weekends. People are swimming, so if they are going to swim, and there was a drowning, as was mentioned, maybe we might want to consider roping off an area. There's a lot of safety concerns, or the church to put up parking for patrons only. Just want to make sure that I didn't forget anything. I think I've covered everything. I'd like to thank you so much for your time and for the opportunity to speak.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for- Thanks for being at that meeting. That's-
All right, so that is the last card. Was anybody here who wanted to be heard, who didn't fill out a card? And Charles, still no Zoom, right?
I have someone telling me that they're watching it on Zoom.
They're watching it on Zoom,
I
but they
don't know how
can't.
this is working.
They're watching it on the portal,
They're probably
probably.
watching on the portal.
They're probably the portal. All right, so we can't close.
Okay, they're watching it on the portal.
Maybe.
We can close, I guess, the hearing, but leave the written record open. I think that's fine, so,
I have a meeting this Friday with the folks in the church and some other folks, so.
There's one other issue I'd like to bring up with this. If we have people from other parts of Long Island bringing flotation devices into Wildwood Lake, which is a pristine lake, kettle hole, formed by a kettle hole, very unique on Long Island, it could bring in invasive species, and if milfoil grabs hold, we're not getting it out. So, just to complicate things.
it is.
So
and
don't take your kayaks from Trout Pond to Wildwood Lake.
It's surrounded by a lot of town
Trout
and,
Pond is full
I
of
think
it.
it's town and state and county open space around.
Mm-hmm.
And we also
Yeah.
had a fish ladder put in, and a whole, there's been a lot of, it's cross-jurisdictional,
I
it's
know.
complicated.
Yeah, we don't,
It's,
It's
the town itself really just has with the CPF portion of the parking, that's really our whole role here.
is
so
the
far.
state or county, they don't have a public access point.
The state,
The
the
state has a
DEC
ramp.
owns property
DEC.
across the lake, as one gentleman mentioned.
DEC has a boat ramp access.
there's a
It's
kayak
any-
launch
anybody
there, right?
from the state
I
can
think
launch
that's where I
there.
launched a kayak.
Anybody
Yeah.
with a permit can launch
Yeah,
there.
I think
at the
there's a
DEC ramp.
slide.
The DEC permit, is that a New York State, whatever,
Yeah.
voter?
Yeah, and at
It's a-
this
it's a
particular
launch
piece,
ramp?
there's a,
I don't think you
there's
need a permit to
waterway
launch
that-
there.
There's a feeder, water that comes up there that gets covered in garbage and things originally, before we did this with the bowling alley. And that's also, as I understand it, is part of the DEC protected zone, because it's one of the feeders to the lake. So, there's a lot there that we need to go through technically to see who owns what.
And the trustees own the underwater land here,
They own the
The
beach
bay-
area, actually, too.
and the beach
Yeah,
area.
they do, yeah. We've been maintaining the beach area. You know, I said over the weekends,
So-
Parks Department does a really good job cleaning up the place.
I do think that we need to do a little bit of legal research too into if there are
Any restrictions? on
any
it, yeah.
restrictions or promises that were made, let's say when the homeowners association gave it to the town, were there any conditions attached to it, or those kinds
To
of
the
things?
town trustees, it was.
I don't
yeah.
think there's any, you don't need a permit to launch there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to close the hearing, but leave the written record open till June 27th.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Are we closing them, the public hearing? I thought we were keeping them open.
No, we're closing the oral portion of it and
And
leaving
leave
the
it-
written
leaving the
record
written.
open
Okay.
for 2 weeks.
Aye.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you read the 8th public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 8, to amend Chapter 247, Open Space, to allow for clustering of commercially zoned property proposed for subdivision.
All right, and Janice Shearer, our Town Planning and Development Administrator, will introduce this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Only took me 8 years, but I might have the title down.
There you go. This amendment
did
is related to subdivision regulations. The subdivision regulations right now provide for when the state enabling legislation allows us to do what is called a cluster of subdivision, or I just want to back up and explain this correctly. Subdivisions have 2 types. There's a standard subdivision and what we conventionally call a cluster subdivision. And we do cluster subdivisions when there's some type of open space feature that we want to stay away from. So this is a great example. If there's somebody wanted to subdivide it and we weren't buying it, we would look at that and say, well, let's move away from it and cluster the lots and preserve some type of feature, usually farmland, but it could be woodland, it could be a trail, it could be a scenic view shed, it could be anything. So we
you-
do
you-
this
you-
routinely to
You figure out
preserve.
the yield based on the size of the property, and then you shrink
it and sort of preserve that protective feature.
and shift.
Yeah.
We do
And
this now
so
for
we-
PRDs.
Yes, we call them PRDs, Planned Residential Development. The enabling legislation allows us to do it for commercial as well. We look at the regulations we have on the books and it just says residential. So this amendment is just allowing to do planned commercial developments where appropriate. That doesn't mean that every commercial development is now going to do a cluster. They first of all, they don't want to necessarily. Second of all, they may not be eligible. So there has to be some type of reason to do a cluster, which I just described. It could be many different things, but the planning board must make specific findings about those things. So that's already on the books.
So
This-
something they'd want to protect.
Something they want to protect, and they have to say, it could be open space, woodlands, hiking, a beach area. I'm just reading from the code as it is now.
Wetlands.
Historic place,
Wetlands, things like that.
archaeological. Wetlands, we already have setbacks, but yeah, you can cluster away
If you
from a
wanted to move
wetland.
away from,
So if you had a
tributary.
commercial property and you wanted to subdivide it, that means your commercial property is big enough that you could subdivide it. You can come in and we could use this. It's another tool in our toolbox. We don't always require it. We like to use it if we need it. We could say, well, you gotta move over because there's this. We don't have that option right now. because it's not on our code. It is allowed per the state statute enabling us. So this provision is to allow us to cluster a subdivision if it does occur in a commercial zone, shopping center, highway business, and village business. Assuming those features are present, the planning board would have the opportunity to say to a potential subdivider, show us a PRD or a cluster plan.
So then you allow then this various lots are gonna be now on smaller lots. Does it provide relief on those lots for the
Yes,
size?
the planning board then creates a table on the map, on the plat that gets filed, and that shows, the setbacks, any modifications that are needed.
Or
So-
because the buildings are gonna be closer together, you're allowing them to aggregate to some degree on this?
Yes, and so the aggregation would only be the amount of, there's a maximum. So in these zones, shopping center business and highway business, the max building size is 15,000. So we say the most you can cluster is 2 buildings. So that way, you're only putting together 2 potentially. And the code says, well, you still have to design that building to be sensitive to the context, to have the architectural features that we have all become accustomed to that will be befitting of an area in Southampton, a hamlet. So it does say, the code says the planning board and ARB shall ensure that clustered commercial buildings are designed to be screened or otherwise articulated with appropriate materials to ensure massing is appropriate. So the idea is that we use design to create a beautiful building, and we use a cluster to preserve open space and habitat. So it's pretty much a win-win.
Okay.
Any questions? No? Thank you.
Okay, we do have a couple cards on this issue.
Kim, I think you're on the screen. It's been there for the whole meeting. I was trying to figure out what it was.
Who was that? Kim?
Yeah,
She's
back.
very busy over there.
At least you're not
Disconnect that
shopping.
cable.
Got to.
You're not shopping
You're
on
not
Amazon.
Okay.
Or Facebook.
She's at work.
All right, so Gail Lombardi, Gail, if you're here.
Just turn them off. Charles, can you turn those 2 TVs off?
Okay, so the town board really needs to invest in some air conditioning here, in this room. It's like a COVID
Thank you,
hotspot
I
here.
thought it was just me.
Oh, no.
I'm sitting here going, oh my God.
I won't get personal with you, but I'm older than you, so,
We have
and that's
air
not, that
conditioning.
doesn't run into my 3 minutes, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Are we good? Okay, so first of all, I read the change of the law, and it's actually at the discretion of the developer, and I also watched the work session. And Janice's presentation was all of 5 minutes to this, and it said, somebody said it was a good idea. Well, I have lots of good ideas. I have the Brooklyn Bridge, I think it's for sale, maybe you guys want to buy that too. So, again, this is zoning by, in my humble opinion, this is zoning by sound bites. How many properties are we talking? What review have you done for this? One, it's again at the discretion of the developer wanting to do this. How many properties in village business? How many properties in highway business? How many properties in all the other zoning? How many? What are we talking? Which ones actually apply? Is this just a disguise for some illegal spot zoning that one developer wants to do it? And so let's put it in the zone so that it looks innocuous. It looks like it might even be good until it gets to the planning board and the person living next door to it, head explodes, right? Because that's what happens now. You approve some zoning like the BES and the sewage treatment plants in residential neighborhoods. It doesn't seem horrible until a site plan goes to the planning board. So now in village business, you have 30,000 square feet. 30,000 square feet. Okay, 15,000, I'm good at math. 15,000 plus 15,000 is 30,000. And now you're talking about screening. Well, isn't village business, aren't we supposed to be bringing our buildings close to the road so we look like a village? Not pushing them back and put screening? I mean, so the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't seem to make any sense to our comprehensive plan, to what you want to do in downtown Hampton Bays. Which properties are we talking about? Who really wants it? I don't know, because there's been no disclosure other than somebody thought it was a good idea. So I really suggest you guys go back, do your homework, present to us which properties this actually applies to, so it doesn't look like you all are participating in some sort of disguised illegal, spot zoning, that it really is only one developer, or two developers that want to do this. Because more and more people are coming to me now, all of a sudden I'm like the Article 78 expert, in areas outside of Hampton Bays. They're like, now they're realizing what's been going on all these years, where you guys, have the zoning, it looks innocuous until it gets to the planning board. So I really suggest you guys go back and do your homework and make sure this is something that really benefits, not just the developer that wants to do it. You have CPF monies, you want to save property, use the CPF monies to do that. You don't have to be looking to do this unless we know exactly which properties we're talking about in the town of Southampton. And does it really benefit the entire town of Southampton? Or is it for some developers so they could put all their utilities, all their benefits, so they could all, economies of scale for them to save what? Maybe the sump pump in downtown Hampton Bays? I don't know, that's wetlands, that can be considered wetlands. So I'm very concerned that this doesn't have some, again, we don't trust the planning department, we don't trust you guys, we've reached a point. It's hard not to, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Janice, you sign contracts. The HBDOD now seems to be a disguise for, Schneiderman, Kiolaville, I don't know. So we are concerned, and I'm concerned that this is just part of it. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lombardi. Mr. D'Angelo, you're next.
Ray D'Angelo, Hampton Bays. I guess it gets back to what we were saying before, these things start out and then they get in front of the zoning board of appeals and then to the planning board and then they get any kind of control we have over these things. And case in point is the Lewis Road project, which was defeated by the town board and is a dagger in our water supply, and it was approved. The zoning board of appeals said they had the accessory buildings, and then it got into planning board and they approved it. And we have a similar situation now with the BEST going on. But also, just looking at this, at 24711, part of this law, it's confusing. It says limited commercial uses. Well, what properties, really, what commercial properties have open space? I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, I think the intent was to preserve properties that were open space, access, that had environmental things on it, like creeks or a pond or something. How's it gonna be extended now to commercial property? And then, then they get a good lawyer or an expediter and they get in front of the zoning board of appeals, and next thing they know, they're on their way. And this is, again, a matter of trust. We don't trust these boards, and for good reason. So this is the problem. Now we have this thing, it's another tool that they have so they can get around zoning and get things done that they normally couldn't get done. And this is what our objection is to this. Here we go, it's so far, every time we look at these things, it always works against us in the sense that, we say, well, it's not zoned for that, but then they go to the zoning board of appeals, and their approval rate is almost 99%, by the way, and that's to be factually true. And then the planning board gets a hold of it. And let's face it, I don't want to get into questioning the makeup of these boards, but, someday, if I have the time, I will. So this is primarily what I'm concerned about this. It sounds good, it starts out sounding pretty good. Well, commercial property. Next thing we know, they're using it as an end run to get around something, and then we have something that's, again, being forced on us. And it's a matter of trust, because in all these years, we've looked on what's going on, and it hasn't been a pretty picture. So I'm against this. It's you crossed out, you added commercial. Let's leave commercial property out of it. I can't see how any commercial property, anything zoned commercial, can have any kind of environmental or aesthetic purpose for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo. All right, those are the only cards I have on this. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Yes. Steve?
Hi, Steve Jufrey, East End Contractors Association. This isn't why I came here, but I figured I would just throw my 2 cents in. I think that this could really only benefit the community. The commercial isn't actually gaining a bigger building or anything like that. This is maybe better for the neighbors if it could shift things away from them and allow the building to be, further away from them, or if there's a historic thing, or it just to be more neighborly. I don't see any sort of reason why it would be a bad thing, because we're not increasing the amount that they would build if they didn't do it, so we're
We're
not.
not increasing square footage.
Square
but-
footage, yeah.
But one building could be bigger, but the total square footage is the same.
One building could be bigger,
Could be
then there
bigger,
could be
and then
two
after-
buildings that equal the same square
Right.
footage anyway, so.
Right, exactly.
I think that, there's really the builder is not actually gaining anything. If anything, it's just making it more friendly to the community if it were necessary,
Mhm.
which I don't really see as, a bad thing, I guess. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Anyone else? Janice, did you want to say anything?
I appreciate that comment because that is actually true. We're not increasing the yield, the density, or anything else. We're just trying to have a tool that people can utilize. The planning board, it's not a mandated cluster, but it is a possible opportunity to say, hey, there's this environmental feature here. Move away from it. Show us a plan that moves away from it. We operate under the confines of the code. If we can't show it in the code and say, yeah, the code says we can ask you for this, then they don't have to give it to us. It's a tool for us to be able to plan adequately for the public benefit of conserving open space or other environmental ecological features. And the idea that no commercial property could have an ecological feature is not so. I can name at least 5 off the top of my head. So there are ecological habitats and areas that we could cluster away from that are important. And we can't know upfront every parcel that somebody wants to subdivide. It's impossible for us to know what's inside someone's mind who owns an oversized parcel and may come in now or when their parents pass away or some other thing happens, when they're going to come in. We do know that there are oversized parcels. We don't know if anybody will ever subdivide them. But if they do subdivide them, they want to make one parcel 2 or however many they can get. We can say, well, this map, we can work with it. We can shift things around to make it better. So, trust or no trust, you see things as you want to see them. But the truth is, we've been preserving open space for the 20 years I've been here, and it's worked.
This is code, what we're doing.
And this code already exists. Everything, the only small thing we're adding is that you could do this very thing in commercial districts. There's like literally a couple of underlines. Everything else is already on the books as it is today.
Janice, would this apply to historically sensitive areas or archaeological sensitive
Yes.
areas and other things that we might want to avoid and just
That's
leave them?
correct.
Okay,
So if we
thank you.
found that there was something sensitive and it happened to be a residential zone, we already can cluster it. If it's commercial zone, this would give you the opportunity to do that as well.
Okay.
Right, any other questions? All right, again, we don't have Zoom, so we're gonna have to leave the record open. So I'll make a motion to close the hearing, but leave the written record open until June 27th.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Janice. That's
Janice.
it for public hearings. We're gonna move on to public portion. I have a number of cards for public portion. I'll take them in the order they were received. And I will start with Steve Gifford. Please.
Hi, me again. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for all of the affordable housing work you guys been doing late in the last year. I know it's kind of slow from what we actually see as affordable housing, but I see some major steps in the right direction. So thank you. I know people like to come and complain, but I'm here to say thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
The other thing I was here for is we applied for our property 3.5 years ago for a change of zoning application. And it just been, nothing's actually happened with it, and it just took an exorbitant amount of time, so I was hoping that we can possibly get our $2,500 application fee back. And I guess just like a note to you guys that maybe the planning board, I think they said they were just understaffed and they couldn't process it, that maybe that, you guys can help with that, so that doesn't happen in the future.
I'm very familiar with residual freeze property, but I'm not familiar with this part of the changes
You
on
applied
application.
for changes of.
Change the zoning with you, where you guys would decide if it was, you know, because we're a non-conforming lot, so it would make it conforming and we were
Right, you
able
have
to
a
change some things around.
Commercial use on a property.
Yeah.
This is in Speonk.
Speonk,
area,
yep,
and
yeah.
Wasn't there like a former allowed use of like a cement processing?
Cement processing plant, and we have a pre-existing use of auto repair and welding.
And you were gonna give up those uses in exchange for a landscape?
LA 40, we had a whole plan that we were gonna do, affordable workspace for people and have like a community, office where people can share like legal and secretarial and all that.
Would that be a zone change, or would that be a switch from one non-conforming use to another?
It could have gone either way.
I thought it was a
Was there somebody
zoning-
representing?
Yeah,
this?
we, not on this part, but we, actually submitted this before the law was changed, before COVID, and then I think you guys changed the law of changing from one non-conforming use to another, so I don't know.
So it went to us from the ZBA.
Yeah, so I think Janice said it was better to apply differently, so we were just hoping to get the,
Yeah.
Let me talk to Janice. and
Okay.
Send me the details.
Maybe
We'll
I'll
go
just
down.
move the
I'll talk with
application
Jim.
over.
I know
yeah,
there
to
was-
get a credit or something, or
There was some
however.
area in the back that, your back of your property sort of backed up to residential properties, and we're trying to figure out how to mitigate sound and light impacts
Mhm.
to those residential properties.
That's
Kind of like maybe clustering in the front.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sure-
kind of like a cluster, yes.
I'm sure-
Clustering a commercial pizza property?
In that process of going from one non-conforming use to another, we just have to make a determination that the new non-conforming use is
better than the
old
other one,
conforming
yeah.
use, and the new non-conforming use isn't at a scale that is out of sync with the town code, right? So,
Mhm.
And the code reads the impact to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We've looked
Yeah.
into, and we've been speaking with Stephen.
Yeah, I thought this
about
was all.
possible
all done.
acquisition or
Mhm.
an easement on the back piece, primarily, and we understand.
well, we could require as part of the conversion from non-conforming use to another, a condition that there's a 50-foot buffer, whatever it might be, whatever's necessary. in the
Yeah, you
back.
just got caught in
Yeah,
between.
it's a very complicated thing to go from non-conforming to make it conforming, because we have to change so many things that were, everything about this property is done like in the 40s, you know, so,
We just have to all sit down and figure this out.
yeah.
I think the neighbors' concerns were primarily like the headlights shining in early
Yeah.
in the morning, the noise, and the trucks when they back up, the
Yeah.
sound, the
Yeah.
beeping and all that.
At one point, a fair amount of the property in the back was wooded, and
You
then
know,
when
but-
that
but
disappeared,
certainly what you-
buffer, when we lost the buffer, it lost.
What you're doing is far less community impact than the allowable use of a cement
Yeah.
factory there.
Yeah,
which
and
would have
that's
a
our
lot
goal,
of
to
noise
be
and that
part of
would
the
be
community.
Noise and
and-
dust and
Yeah.
giant conveyor belts and that's.
Really like
really-
a small trade contractor storage and an office that can sort of double as like helping small businesses, because you don't have the resources as a small business as you do of having like a legal team and an accounting team, and, you know, that was kind of our goal. I mean, we have the application, but I don't know what happens to it.
Have you spoken with Janice Scherer?
Yeah, so Janice kind of said that she doesn't have the manpower to process it, and she didn't think that the town board would go for it because the neighbors don't like anything.
The
They
change-
don't like it now or the change. They don't.
I wouldn't do it as a change of zone to LI 40, I would just do it as a change from one non-conforming use to another.
Mhm.
Under that provision, which would come here as well. Either one comes here.
Okay.
That is not guaranteed.
Yeah, I get it, but we just wanted our
We shouldn't be dispensing
position
legal advice.
to, you know,
So, but you've already paid an application.
approach you
fee,
guys.
So we'll work with you
No,
on
they've
the
had,
application.
they've had attorneys.
Yeah,
Right now, they
issue
have
is the
Rooney,
application
Bill Martin's
fee
involved.
that you're-
I don't
Yeah.
know what degree of processing has been done, so.
Yeah, I don't
but,
either, so.
I have no objection to returning a fee
Okay.
as long as they haven't done anything.
Okay.
But I don't know what the fee is. I think there's a fee to come here with the one non-conforming use to another, so.
Yeah,
maybe we
if
could-
it's the same fee or whatever, or,
We
yeah.
can apply it, but can you work with Jim on it?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll be
I'll be
Okay.
happy to have a hearing on that change from, and then I get to hear the neighbors and
Yeah.
see if we can address and mitigate whatever the
Yeah,
concerns are.
we think we took a lot of, all their concerns that we possibly could into the plan.
Yeah,
So,
it would be, I think.
I
good
think it
for
would
you.
benefit us and them. I mean, I think it would just,
Yeah.
that's our
I think,
goal,
It would
anyway.
be good for your business, I think, to have
Yeah.
a formal recognition of that as
Yeah.
an allowable use
Yep.
at the property. It's mostly landscaping. businesses.
We just want all small trade contractors, kind of like, you know, across the street, how it's just LI 40. We were just thinking that would, I mean, I guess it could have more specific requirements since, you know, we'd be asking for a different use. But our idea was just small trades contractors. That's kind of what we're about in the community, I guess.
We have to look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot we
Yeah.
have to
Because this
find out.
provision of the code.
I didn't expect anything to be resolved today. I guess I just
It
want
has to be a use that's contemplated within the code, so if
Yeah.
it's something that, I mean, I like the idea of having a place where tradespeople can park their vehicles and things like that, but I don't know that we have that in the code. We probably have to create something like that in the code.
Well, I guess it would be LI 40 zoning. That's the only commercial zoning we
They're
really
just
have.
talking about,
yeah.
they're talking about like storage space for businesses.
Like a warehouse.
Yeah, with a shared office space.
With the shared office space. Yeah, like yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, Jim, can
Yeah.
you figure out what the best?
But it would be allowed
No,
under
we-
LA 40, what we want to
Janice
do,
and
so
I
it's
have
not
met,
like
we've
a
met
out of
with
the,
What the
Dave-
best path forward,
Dave
because maybe
Gilmartin.
LI 40 rezoning is the better path,
yeah.
but then we often have to look at the entire neighborhood. and
Right.
Here you have a pre-existing commercial use going on there.
We've been looking, if you recall, we've
It's
looked
been,
about
this
trying
has been a
to.
long.
Yeah, there's a
No,
lot
no.
to this.
We've talked about
Yeah,
acquiring
I-
part of the
And
back
I
of
would
it
hope a
for a buffer.
revegetation plan is in there, since you're here talking to us.
Yes.
You cleared most of the property,
yeah, we have all that,
So-
so,
because that's what kind of got the neighbors.
and I think, across the street in the 90s, it was rezoned to, commercial, so I'm sure there was some kind of study that, you know, that identified the concerns on that, and, you know, our street has 3 abandoned houses on it, and is, you know, probably one of the worst streets in the town, so I think, you know, more properties would benefit from that as well.
Yeah, well, we can't design it here.
Yeah,
so-
I'm just saying, yeah, I get
Whatever
it.
we do has to go through planning first.
All right,
So we'll-
Did
we'll
you do
work
any of the
with Jim and I'll
revegetation
talk to
already?
Janice.
You did.
We
yeah.
did,
We
we
did a
planted
lot.
230
Yeah,
trees,
that's
and we did, all
And-
that.
And to be fair, they
Yeah.
used to have a lot of uses that were right up against the rear border, and they've moved a lot of those quite a bit back. We've been working with them,
And we got like all
Janice and I
the
have been-
certificate of compliance and all that, and like everything's sort of been resolved, the issues that we had. We're just looking to
But
get
just
some
to
move forward.
reemphasize, you came up here because you want to try to get your feedback, which is
Yeah,
understandable.
unless something's gonna
That's
happen, I
where-
guess. Yeah, I
that's
guess I just
where-
thought, you know.
We don't know, that's
Yeah,
why we.
I just
we
thought
can keep
3.5
going in
years was a
circles.
long time for the pre-app, and then thinking that if the pre-app
And I-
takes 3.5
and I
years.
appreciate-
All right,
I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's look into it.
Okay.
So, talk to Jim.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
All
Steve.
right, next up is Kristen Millenhausen.
Hi. I'm so intimidated because this is not something I typically do, but
You're not
here I
too
am. Some familiar
We're
faces.
a friendly bunch.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So I know that this is more of a planning board situation with Lithium Bass, right? So I attended my first planning board meeting on June 8th. First day, found out about this. It sparked a fire in me, no pun intended. And I started to really question, how does this type of grand scale project really benefit Hampton Bays folks? I live about a mile from the site. I have well water. It is affecting everyone in that community. So first I'd like to ask is, who in this room is an expert on lithium batteries?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I know a lot about them. And the one, that I'll just tell you right away, and this information's been shared with planning, and you're right, that's where it belongs. But in particular, what's being used here is a phosphate lithium battery, which is a low burn battery, they call it. It burns at 300 degrees or less. It's not the ones that you typically hear about in the Midwest, where they have to use a liquid battery system because of the heat. So they're tailored toward different environments, and they're designed with a big big concern for any kind of heat that's involved. They're put in what are called coppers, and they're controlled. So it's very rare that it's extremely rare that a fire breaks out in that case. But that's not to say it hasn't happened, and people get nervous about that. But,
Sure.
you know, I'm an engineer by profession. I've worked with systems like this a lot in my life. I've never seen some of the things that have arisen that I've seen with liquid metal batteries like they use in the Midwest, where it's extremely hot. So from what I understand, the manufacturer here is using the low temperature battery because it makes sense for all companies to do that, you know, as the technology evolves.
Okay, so it's a pretty grand scale project, we can all agree. Harnessing energy, we can all agree is great. But the location of this just rubs me in every direction the wrong way. You have a pretty kind of like old infrastructure in that area. Like when you get off of exit 66 and you see that bridge, which I don't know how it still does it, handle all that traffic every day. And I'm always marvel at that. I've only lived out here half my life. My husband is a local. And after finding out about this, we reached out to everyone we knew and just said, hey, did you know about this? Because we were really just thrown off. Restaurant owners, marina owners, people right on the canal that bring in a lot of money to the community, nobody knew about this. I think that's also part of the nature of why we're so rubbed the wrong way. Plus, I kind of feel like Hampton Bays is getting the short end of the stick. Even if all of the energy harnessed came back to me, I would still not be in favor of this. I don't know the eco, fallout from this. I have well water. I don't know, will that be studied with I reached out to James Cappers. He was so polite, took the call, and I said, I just have so many questions about people with well water with this. How is that going to pan out? Will things be leaching into our well water? We don't really know that answer. I don't know if anyone knows that answer because we're not experts. So it just seems to me like a very grand scale project that nobody knew about, and the community is really up in arms. I've reached out to the Sea Farmers Foundation, the Chris Papora from Stony Brook Marine Science Center. Nobody knew. He said, I have no idea of this. I said, well, perhaps it would behoove you to look into this. I've reached out to my colleagues at the hospital, EMS workers, restaurant owners. Nobody knew. It's not just the firefighters that could be responding to these situations. It's a local hospital that may not be able to handle such a situation, of which I'm a hospital employee, which I love. It's a grand scale matter for people. We have so many questions, and now we're dealing with the planning board, who was so wonderful the other night, and it's in their hands. And I actually feel like that's even scarier because I don't think any of them are experts. The legal representation for the people proposing this had some things to say that seemed so vague to me. Factual data to me is the most important thing, and I don't feel like that was provided. So I have a lot of questions about this and uneasiness about this. 95% of the people I communicated with did not know anything of this plan.
30 seconds.
So I'm not for this. I mean, I know you guys have a tough job to do and you cannot please everybody. But I do feel like the 95% of people that did not know about this, that now know about this, are in an uproar that I know. So people are going to be writing letters and perhaps opposing this. I don't know if that will impact you. But if you hear some of the things they had to say, it is so impactful. And that's just what I wanted to share with you today. I know it's not the right forum because it goes to the planning board. Again, I'm new at this, but I took half a day off from work because I needed to express this.
And I appreciate your expression, and reach out to my office. There's a fact sheet that can maybe help answer some of those questions for you. Sure. Particularly the stats, although the stats aren't really relevant because you're comparing many different types of technologies. But the reasons why this is being considered and why our grid is, we have very few places that can be plugged in. We've got wind power offshore. We want to have lower rates, We talk a lot about affordable housing, And affordable housing isn't always affordable because the cost of actually running your home, particularly the price per electricity, we have the third or fourth highest price per kilowatt hour here in the country. We're working really hard to get that price down, to make that affordable, so people like yourself feel that you can still live here and work here and not have to spend a huge amount of money on energy and other things like that. Energy just being one component of many of the things that we're trying to work on as a board. So
Understood.
I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
I know it's nerve-wracking. I remember the first time I did
Yeah,
that.
it's more than nerve-wracking. We pay a huge amount of taxes to live in a beautiful area, and now roughly less than a mile, as the crow flies, is going to be this in our backyard, and we're just very upset about it. If
Well,
there w-
like I
yeah.
said, reach out to my office and I can share the data with you that you're asking for, and
Sure.
maybe that will help you, maybe take a different perspective on it.
Thank you.
All right, and I appreciate you
Very,
coming.
very close to this location is a substation, a power substation. You're aware of that, right?
Have you talked to the firefighters?
But hold on, but you're aware
Yes.
that.
Oh, I'm well aware.
The light bill, so
Yes.
at a substation, there are lots of transformers, right? And transformers also are vulnerable to overheating and fire, and contain polychlorinated biphenyls, which can create all kinds of problems when they're heated. So, power utilities are often not entirely benign. But
Understand.
we can make sure whatever the safeguards are necessary to protect groundwater, to protect for fire suppression, all those things. As John's is saying, part of the town's goals, besides the obvious, making sure that we don't have to have brownouts, rolling, brownouts and things like that, because we don't have enough energy to keep people's air conditioning on and their pool pumps running, things like that. But part of it is to not have to build more overhead power lines and more diesel fuel or gas power generating facilities, and to move away from non-renewable sources, so that we can go back or rely more on wind power and solar, and do our piece to try to address climate change and global warming. And battery energy storage is seen as part of that, and that is why the town adopted a code for battery energy storage. And I'm not saying that your concerns are not, real or legitimate. In this particular site in the clover leaf next to the county DPW yard, railroad tracks, highway, on its face seems like a pretty good location, because can you put residential there? No, you really can't. Can you put commercial there? No, you really can't. But a power utility type of use seems like a good sort of location for that kind of thing. So.
Ask the neighbors if they feel that way. There are people much closer
No,
to
I
it
know,
than
I know they don't. So we need to make sure that their concerns get addressed. And
But if it's already to the planning board, how does that happen? How did their concerns get addressed? You're elected officials that I don't feel represented our community the way it deserved.
no, I understand it.
That's my truest feeling. It's not an insult, it's just
So
my
like when somebody
feeling.
proposes a gas station, some say, well, could a gas station catch on fire? Well, we rely heavily on New York State fire codes to determine what the fire suppression systems will be, when heat is detected, that, what type of fire suppression will shoot out, onto the flames from above, and all that stuff although we have highly trained, fire marshals, a lot of those codes are at the state level, and so the state has to figure out also, for these types of facilities, what is the necessary fire suppression. And yeah, it is important that our fire departments have the right equipment and training to respond. As Councilman Bouvier said, who is an engineer here, that the lithium phosphate is a different type of battery than the lithium-ion batteries that some people I know are concerned about the flammability. But
It's, I think, just so much.
I'm not trying to dismiss anything you're
Yeah.
saying. It's-
I really hope not, because it's
There's
not just
multiple
like-
agencies that
yeah.
review these things.
Well, I think part of it is, it was such a shock to the system because nobody really knew. And how did it go from there to planning? And now we're presenting all of our arguments to planning. It's just, something that the community, you know, people that have dedicated their lives to this community. My kids live here, they intend on living here, they love it. You know, I'm sandwiched in between our parents and my kids that we all love it. We chose to live here, and now this is gonna be another issue in our backyards.
Well, your primary concern is fire, right?
My primary concern is
There's a lot of
potentially what could this do if there is a runoff situation? The canal is right there. We have a water ecosystem. We have, you know, I mean, we have beautiful, pristine bays, really. And what would this potentially do? Noise. If I was a boat owner and I'm at, say, Hampton Watercraft, Canal Cafe, and I'm hearing a steady hum, because we don't really know what it will sound like, will I opt to keep my boat there or maybe at Prime? This is going to affect local businesses. I mean, we have a lot in that little area, and I just don't think it was a well thought out location.
So the, you know, the issues typically of the groundwater concerns, and we do get involved with those too, but the county Article 12 standards, so they have to meet certain county standards too, which may mean there's a concrete slab and retention, drainage and things like that. That's often regulated by the county and the state to some degree. In terms of the noise impacts, whether there's sound walls, I mean, I'm personally not used to battery energy storage facilities being loud. There are cooling fans and things like that, but it's typically not worse. I think it's less than 80 decibels. It's less than somebody's air conditioning system at a house nearby. So
And there are many of these units, correct?
yes. So there could be a hum.
So it's not just
that-
one unit, you
So
know, like.
those things have to be mitigated, and maybe a sound wall has to be part of the design.
So I wasn't on the board when the code was adopted, and I do believe that, I think, you know, when people heard this code for BEST, what's BEST? Battery energy storage.
Yeah.
It sounds like a harmless, benign thing until you start actually living with a proposed site and a proposed plan, and then these questions, I mean, I have questions about decommissioning and cost and, you know, all of these things that are in our code that we don't really have finite answers for, which I don't know that we'll ever have finite answers for. But I feel that right now, there is a level of discomfort from the public, from the planning board, from pretty much definitely the residents from what I watched the last planning board hearing.
Sure.
And I hear your concerns, and I really feel like we need to, you know, take a pause and look at it.
At the very least, please take a pause, you know, please take a pause. Letters
Well,
are
you know, I
in-
just, I need to respond a little to my
Okay.
friend here. These systems are very commonplace, and the reason you don't hear a lot about it is because they are. Where we have issues out here is in particular when let's say we have brownfield areas that we want to get remediated. If we put in a solar system over those remediated properties, we get a benefit, you get a benefit. That remediation is corrected because we're putting in a solar system to have that happen. That solar energy has to go somewhere. Hopefully it goes back the way we have, like we're doing in North Sea as a pilot, is that the people in the immediate area get a benefit from that. They get a benefit because they get to get a lower price per kilowatt hour for that. It's over a transfer station, which is already mitigated by law under the DEC. We have to protect anything that happens over there under the law to do that. That's why we try to put systems like that there. But by the same token, as Cindy points out, how do you remediate solar panels? You know, how do you recycle those? There's a lot of issues that you think about and people talk about, but they're all relative to a larger issue here. And the larger issue is that we only have so much grid to connect to. We need this energy going into the future because you're going to continue to pay higher and higher and higher rates. Right now, as I said before, you're paying 3 to 4 times. To me, that's unforgivable as well. So it's a matter of weighing the priorities, but you also, I know the word trust has been bandied around here a lot, but you need to trust the fact that there are professionals who look at these subjects and very carefully look at those subjects. Nobody wants to inflict anything like that on someone else. And so it's not in their interest, and it certainly isn't in ours, but as the process goes through, you learn, you come up to speed with it, but you can't equate certain events with other events because these are very, very different systems, and they're highly technical.
But-
if there were a situation, it's not just like a fire failure. If there were, you're coming off of that bridge and it looped around, we went over there to take like an assessment of it just to kind of really get a feel for it before we all freaked out. And it is, what if a tractor trailer, the traffic's insane, we can't control that, right? We can't control the accidents that are occurring, it shuts down the highway, we understand that. What happens if there was something that went on there and the roadway is shut down? Like what happened in East Hampton. That was, prime example recently of they had an episode with theirs. Is that the same technology? Do you know?
I don't believe
It's
it
an older
is. It's an
technology.
older technology, and that's also what drives markets and safety, is that the manufacturers are not gonna produce, if something happens, they're not gonna produce something that's gonna continue to do that. So, within the United States, there's hundreds of thousands of these systems, and they're designed to solve a much larger problem, as the supervisor alluded to. Global warming issues and sea level rise, and all these things that we have are all directly impacted by the fact that we're still producing using fossil fuels.
We have
to
other
develop
people
this.
looking to speak.
But, reach to my office, and I can give you all that data, and happy to spend as much time with you and whoever else to go through that. That's what the planning board is supposed to do, and they take their time to learn this subject and get up to speed on it, because nobody wants to inflict something like that on anyone. And the image of it is not a nice image, and it's actually not a real image. So I hope I can assuage you a little bit, and we can get.
And we have to move along here.
Yes, thank
so-
you for your time. Thank you for your time, but I'm not
Appreciate
the
it.
only one. is
No,
all.
no,
No, obviously.
understandable.
And those are,
Yeah.
whether it's groundwater or noise or fire, those are important concerns, and they need to get addressed and
And
mitigated.
our
So-
EMS workers.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Kristen Howlett is next. Is Kristen still here? Oh, yes, hi.
So I live about 528 yards from this site, and I do believe the fire 2 weeks ago was a similar facility, but much smaller actually than what's going to go, or hopefully maybe not. So the applicant seems to think this area is remote and suitable for this type of facility. But if you look on any map, you can see it is not. During the town board meeting last week, in April, their fire expert, the applicant's fire expert, never stated the type of toxic gases that would be emitted in case of a fire. And the fires are not blazing fires, they're smoldering and they emit toxic gas. Cyanide would actually fill the air. Water would have to be used for many weeks to cool the batteries. The toxins would seep into our soil and water supply. We don't have the water resources for this, considering all the water contamination and pressure problems Hampton Bays has had in the past. Most importantly, the volunteer firefighters we have should not be put in this kind of extreme danger, no matter how much training they've received. They would not be able to put out the fire in the area with all the water resources, in any other area, with all the water resources being used while waiting for the lithium fire to burn itself out, which is what your applicant said that basically we'll have to do. Leaving it to burn out on its own is not an option while people sit in their homes sheltering in place for weeks. Our wildlife would also suffer immensely in the waterways and what forests we would have left. We have fish, we have deer, we have groundhogs, squirrels, endangered turtles, and many kinds of birds in the area. This would be on a whole other level from the travesty of the Pine Barrens fires and strand people with toxins in the air for months. We don't want to be another East Palestine, Ohio. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And again, same offer if you'd like to see the data. Well, if you've made up your mind, it's different, but I'm certainly happy to share that with you.
All right, I got Pat DeLuca next. Pat DeLuca, all right, Ray D'Angelo.
always happy to come here, see all your new places with your bright, shiny faces, you know. I enjoy this. Mr. Bouvier, you said something, there's hundreds of thousands of these facilities?
Nationally.
No, they're not. I think you misspoke. You should check your facts. There is not hundreds of thousands of these facilities. There's, think about what you said. There's not hundreds of thousands of these facilities. Not the size that's proposed here. They're
Well,
proposing.
that's different.
Okay, well,
What
you
you're saying
spoke,
is
well, it was
different.
misleading what
I'm
you
saying-
said.
Okay.
All right, you
I'm not gonna
represent the
get in a debate
town.
with you.
There's 30 they're gonna have 30 containers, thousands of these batteries, even if they use lithium phosphate, you know, it's a nascent industry, nascent technology. There's no historical, we really don't know much about these things and how they're gonna perform 2 years out, 4 years out, 6 years out. So basically, these residents over there are guinea pigs. They're right near this thing. And you know how these things are constructed. They have explosive roofs, so if they explode, the stuff goes out through the roof. There's no one here that can say, and I was at both these meetings, that these things can perform the way they said they're going to perform. Like in Korea, where these things are a lot more common, maybe they got you know, from 2017 to 2019, there were 28 fires at these facilities. 23 of them were deemed as being serious fires. Now, now, I can't attest to the investigation, but they did an investigation what caused them. First, they blamed the batteries, and also the people that made the batteries said that's not true. They were saying that there was mistakes made when they were constructing and they weren't maintained properly. But still, there were all these fires. You know, again, we have it's a new technology. We don't know the long-term effects of it. And I don't think, I got involved with this a year ago, and I wrote, and I thank the Southampton Press, they publish everything I write. It should be in an industrial area. These are industrial facilities, really. This one's a really big one. It's got 30 of these not storage containers, well, I'm using the word storage container, but they're bigger than a storage container. And there's 30 of them. There's thousands and thousands of batteries. Now, it's not only that the batteries degenerate, if they're dropped or if they're damaged, they can fail also for that reason. You know that, like if you get in an accident with a Tesla, they have to change all the batteries because of that in the car. That's why the repairs are so expensive. So to say, you know, that they're not prone to happen, it comes down to probability and possibility. The probability is probably, if you're going to do risk management, is really maybe not, you know, we can't say definitely it's going to happen, but there's a real possibility. And there's human life and human safety involved with this. And you have to side on the side of human safety. That's why we elected you guys, all right? If you guys can't do that, then you shouldn't have ran for office. This is a safety issue. There's families over there within 300 feet of these facilities, and you can't guarantee their safety. You know you can't. So, I mean, I don't know why you guys ever changed the zoning and made these things acceptable in any residential zoning in the town. I mean, 2 of them wanted to be in Hampton Bays. Of course, you know, with an easy target, you want to put them where we are. So now it's in front of the planning board, who have no idea what they're dealing with. I read the report from the Hampton Bays Fire Department, and Hampton Bays Fire Department, what they want is a dry standpipe from the canal. You know what a dry standpipe is, right? And they want it, I guess, for drafting purposes. I guess they were going to draft water out of the canal. If they needed additional water, send it through the standpipe and use it for their large caliber streams on the fire. Well, the worst thing, and I could show you all the documents, if you want to, I'll give you my information, is to put salt water on one of these fires. It's the absolute worst thing to do. Salt water is corrosive, it's an electrolyte, and it will react with lithium, as you know, is a reactive metal. So really, I'm really concerned about this after reading that report. So I don't feel comfortable at all. I mean, you can share all your information, I'll share my information with you. I think you're doing a disservice to the community to try to sell this thing as not being poo-poo, it's no big thing. It is a big thing. And I don't know anyone that would want to live next to it, other than Mr. Schneiderman. He said he'd be okay living next to it. So let's put it in Southampton Village, okay? But do this to these people is an outrageous thing, really. And the only other thing I want to say is that these units are replacing peaker units, which, like, you know, when we have like very hot days, what they used was basically these jet engines that turns turbines and they generate additional power. These facilities are going to be storing the power and applying it to the grid on these very hot days. And I understand the need for them as we go to sustainability. I'm not a climate change denier. But what I'm saying is you don't want to solve one problem with another problem. And again, we do not know the long-term effects of these facilities at all. And all the fires have been wicked. I mean, I reviewed the fire in Phoenix, where the 7 firefighters were severely injured and one was killed. The one in Liverpool in England, all these fires ultimately were really serious incidents. So again, this is a big facility over there. It's right near residential units. I wouldn't want to live there, and I wouldn't want anybody else to live near it. I said it originally when I wrote this, it should be up by the airport in a commercial area. Not commercial, I mean an industrial area. These are industrial facilities. So really, I mean, that's why we elected you guys. I know you say there's a firewall between you. I got to laugh when they say that. A firewall between you and the planning board. But I know you have influence. You should really do what you're elected for and protect the people of the community. Thank you.
All right, Gail, you're next.
I have a little assortment, but this is exactly the problem with going back to the clustering. Number one, I find it offensive that this board, and I've said this to this board before, after we come up and speak, that you debate us. We're not here to debate you. We're here to speak our minds. This poor woman does not want to hear John Bouvier explain. And you could invite her, but that's not why we're here. I don't want to hear Janice Scherer get up and dispute what I had to say because I don't agree with Janice, but she gets the final say. We pay a salary. We elected you. We don't want to hear your dispute. I'm sorry. I find it very inappropriate, number one. And Ray's right. You adopted the zoning without full knowledge of what the issues were, exactly the clustering issue that I said, and because that was a developer that came that wanted the clustering. It is not because the planning board says to this gentleman, maybe we can cluster and we could solve your problem. That's not it. It's the developer goes and says, we want to do it. Well, obviously, it's to their benefit. It's not like this gentleman that wants to actually work with the planning board and get something done that may be beneficial. So I find, Cindy, your flippant remark kind of, discouraging. My main issue was the downtown. I don't know if you guys have followed some of the downtown issues, but I have show and tell. Okay, first of all, talk about unsafe conditions. People keep sending me pictures of, Schneiderville, Kiolaville clearing. Okay, it's a very dangerous situation at the park right now. You guys, I think it's your fence. It's a 6-foot fence is now open to all that clearing, and it's very dangerous. You could get from the clearing to the park right to Main Street. So if you have a dog or a child, they could run right to Main Street now. So I strongly suggest that if you care about the safety of our community, you go and take care of this. The second thing is all about the Main Street. Mary Moore came to the Civic Association, and she said, well, I invested, the village invested in Main Street because we wanted to show the community that we believe in them. Well, what did you guys do? 6 years you invested in Nelson Pope and Voris, who wanted to, negate the people of Hampton Bays. You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars paying them so you could provide cover for Kiolaville, Schneidermanville, because I think that's a great saying. I love Kiolaville. I really do. Instead of doing all the things you were supposed to do. So I have the pictures from the downtown, the original park plan. The original park plan had a walkway in the fire department, not a roadway, a walkway, an esplanade that you were supposed to buy with CPF funds, never got done. And some of the people here went to the planning board meeting with the CVS going into the movie theater, The movie theater, from the Corridor Strategic Plan, was supposed to be a cinema area. In fact, one of the licenses that they have, the liquor license, is actually the UA movie theater is looking to get a liquor license. But yet for 3 years, the CVS is trying to move in there. For years, and for those that weren't here, I have lots of pictures and stuff. I don't know if you guys want them or not, but out of the corridor strategic plan, you were supposed to be creating a cinema center over there, and so it's like a decade, and you guys did nothing except, pay Nelson Popovoros hundreds of thousands of dollars to, put together a plan so that we could have Kiolaville. So what I don't understand again is the zoning by like spot zoning. It's not illegal spot zoning because you're actually not doing it for a developer, but you're doing like zoning by sound bites. You put in this zoning, and now it's before the planning board, and people are going, oh my God, STPs, I looked up STPs where you could put them. You could pretty much put them anywhere.
36.
Who wants to live next to an STP? So, Jay, you said you don't want to. So it's like, I don't understand. It's you guys doing this first, and then the light bulb goes off when it goes to the planning board. You have to pay more attention before you make these little baby zoning changes, because they really turn out to be not so innocuous when you make them. So I don't know if you want me to leave these pictures with
So
some.
Gail, on the fence, I did talk to Kristen Dulos yesterday. We are proceeding with a fence as soon as we can get it up.
This is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah,
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, have a good day.
All right, thank you. All right, Dolores Riley is next.
Hi, Dolores Riley. I live in Shinnecock Hills in Hampton Bays, and I bought my house 19 years ago. I rented it out, so when I retired, I would have a great place to live. That happened about 4 years ago, so I'm fairly new. I've gone to every meeting that I was aware of for the best, and I've gone to a lot of meetings, and I am a proud member of the Hampton Bays Civic Association. There's something that really strikes me. One is, I would be so much happier if we could find out about these things. And again, you have to, from my point of view, I haven't been coming to these meetings for decades, only for years. To find out sooner about things, like to find out sooner about the BESS facility, which BESS seems to think it's a done deal. Because I was at that meeting last week at the planning board. They wanted to know if we could close it. So we're done, but we're not done. And there's another meeting that they've scheduled. And I talked about, and other people talked about, I'm not right on top. I live by Edgewater Restaurant. My heart is breaking for those people who live in not a great place, that they're being punished because we have a substation there. If we had a substation, and if you happen to watch me talking for the planning board, if we had a substation over by the car wash, that's where this would go. It wouldn't go by all those people who are homeowners and have been homeowners for decades and decades. I am also not against the batteries. I'm not against it. 5 or 10, 15 or 20 years down the road, when it has been really, really established and verified, so we're not another East Hampton, we're not another Korea, we're not another whatever. If, God forbid, there were fire there, and what I spoke about at the planning board was there was a car accident the day before that meeting, I think, and everything shut down. We're in like a little bottleneck. You cannot get people to safety, and you cannot tell us that there is not a great possibility, not probability, there is a strong possibility that someday some fire will go crazy. So yes, I care about the fire, I care about the water, I care about the noise, but mostly about the fire. And, well, this is kind of all out of order, but I think we need at least a 1-year moratorium for the BESS system over by North Road, at least, a minimum. There's nothing wrong with talking about this, and I'm really tired of things being like, here's what we're doing. Jay, you were wonderful with those meetings at the Civic Association. You came to the listening meetings about the movie theater and the downtown, the overlay district. And that was my other complaint. This is a really good map. Most of the time there are really crummy maps up on the TVs. Nobody can see anything. You have access to people who can help you print things up. distribute them, things without like 10,000 trees and brown. Make the streets really big and put the names of the stores where they are and say, this is what, for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what you were talking about. Now that I see all that, the buildings, trees, whatever was taken down, I'm like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Nothing really gets explained. It's just like, here you go. It's a fait accompli. This is what we're doing. And then the civic gets all upset, and people come to these meetings all the time. But my main thing is, my favorite thing about Hampton Bays, my absolute favorite, of course, is the water. And I think we have Good Ground Park is good, and they have great concerts and all that. But the thing I'm really, really, really proudest of and participate in as much as humanly possible is our movie theater. Gail mentioned before that at some point there was some talk of having a little, before my time, movie thing. We have a movie theater. The idea that CVS will come in and knock down the movie theater, take out all those seats, and say, okay, now we have another drugstore. We have a large Hispanic community that we're always trying to be inclusive with. That movie theater deliberately goes about looking for anything in Spanish that will bring more people to the theater, not just for the sake of bringing more people to the theater, but to rejoice in the fact that we have a movie theater. You want people to come to Hampton Bays? We need the movie theater. That brings people here, okay?
3 minutes.
And that was 3 minutes?
Yeah, just finish your thought.
So my thought is that with CVS, I am going to work on like, a petition. And I just, you have to save the movie theater. And what Gail had also mentioned about traffic at one point, the movie theater doesn't really get going till 4 o'clock. That is a crazy busy intersection. And if you have a CVS there will be people going there early morning, lunchtime, late evening, midnight if they're open that late. The movie theater, that little section is crowded, but if you put in a CVS instead of a movie theater, you are asking for a huge, huge, huge problem. And you will be knocking down my movie theater. You cannot do that. I beg you. On my knees, if I could get down there. I beg you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was Dolores. Nancy Dabrowski.
Hi, how are you? I'm Nancy Dabrowski. I live in Hampton Bays for 37 years. My husband has a business in Hampton Bays too. And of course, I agree with what everybody said. I'm totally against this because it's in my neighborhood. Maybe I live near Kristen, maybe 500 yards away. And we live in a beautiful area. And for them to say it was remote of summer houses and nobody's there is ridiculous for them to have said that. I've never been involved in any of these kind of meetings, so I'm like nervous right now. Never been to Hampton Bays Civic, Planning, Town, or anything. This is all new to me, but this is so important to me, and I'm so against it. So I felt like I have to be here. I got Kristen, both Kristens here, and they're Spitfires, thank God. My husband called one of them a pit bull, so we need that. I just wondered how it got this far without anybody knowing about it. We've spoken to many, many people that don't know anything about it. So we're trying to get the word out more and more. We want to flood you guys with letters. We want to get an electronic, petition going. So we have not just 50 written on a petition. We want thousands, to try to stop this because it's a residential area. And it's zoned residential. So I don't know how this could still happen. And it's sad that elderly people that want to retire, they want to sell their homes now. If I didn't have my mother-in-law, my 85-year-old mother-in-law, my brand new granddaughter who's 8 weeks old, I would be shipping out of Hampton Bays because of this. It's going to devalue our homes. I've lived there for a long time. I'm hoping to live there longer. And just to address the East Hampton fire again, that just happened last week. That closed down everything. The trains were halted, the roads, it's inoperable. And that was on a small scale compared to what we're getting. So another question I have is this all about cost and not safety? So that I want to know that, and I want to know how many of you would want to live near this within yards of a facility like this. I don't think so, so that's pretty much what I want to say. It's just, I just
Thank
hope
you.
that you listen. We elected some of you on this board here. I know Rick very well. He grew up in our town too, and I find it hard to believe that you would approve something like this,
Congratulations on the grandchild.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, all right, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everybody.
All right, last card, Margaret Freelander.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Margaret Friedlander. I'm speaking as an individual resident today of Hampton Bays. I'm going to speak on the Bel Air, but in answer to your question, because initially I thought the best was only highway zoning, and when I found out it was residential, I was kind of surprised, because I've done a lot of research. I'm not a subject matter expert. I keep saying that. I'm the person that gave the NYSERDA battery energy storage guidelines to the planning board back in February of 2022, and Jackie LaFaro will attest to that. So anyway, I support all your concerns, and I also understand why battery energy storage exists. I understand the need for it, but the subject site location, in my opinion, is inappropriate. But I'm here to speak to the Bel Air Motel property. For full transparency, I'm the chair of the Hampton Bays Citizens Advisory Committee. I'm also on the Bel Air Cove Motel Advisory Committee, but I'm speaking as an individual and a resident right now, because part of the remit for the Bel Air is to go back to our various organizational group stakeholders, provide them with information unbiased, and probe them, inquire about their wish list or their interest or their concerns and pros and cons. We had our first meeting on June 6th. I was very concerned about the lack of governance and oversight and how we are working together in that committee. I've communicated with the members and Rick and made some recommendations so that we have some informational sharing. And we do this in there are proven methodologies for running these types of meetings, and I do think that these kind of meetings need a little bit more of that. To just have haphazard conversations and have to rely on recall or somebody taking meeting notes. So I intend to go back to the second meeting, whenever that is, with some recommendations to committee. That's another issue. We don't have a standing calendar. I'm sure I'm not the only one who needs advance notice, and we really appreciate that this committee was put together. But I think it's important that we have a standing calendar, given that we have been acknowledged that we've got a late start, so the final report won't be based on its existing due date in July of 2023.
So if I could, Margaret, real quick there. So we're working on 3 dates. We're going to extend the resolution to September 1st.
Great, thanks, Rick.
We're giving about roughly 30 days for all the committees to meet. We don't really have everybody's calendar in check. So it'll be on around 4th of July, maybe the week after will be the next meeting.
Okay, but I'd like to actually
we'll have all three of them,
project
yeah.
them out. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. But primarily, what I want to share with you are some takeaways. I mean, I think even with the committee, there's tension between use and overuse of the water that pits like ecological protections against negative implications of economic development. And so obviously people who want the economic or tourism development are more enthusiastic about those solutions. And then others that are, more concerned about the value of pristine water, non-developed, more open spaces, would be harmed by any kind of additional development. Or even an influx of tourism, and see like the negative side. So we've got some different camps, and thus the committee, but you also do have over 2,000 signatures. And my personal issue is this term park that keeps getting mentioned. A park, to me, means, you know, is informative as the word pretty. What is it? What are the constraints? What are the benefits, pros and cons? That aside, I'm going to take a larger, bigger picture view about that ecosystems themselves and their benefits should not be valued in monetary terms. I think that every decision involves some kind of value judgment, but I think environmental contributions made by ecosystems shouldn't be a zero value. And I think for me, wetlands and restoration is a truly unique opportunity for this particular property, even though there's a, you know, construction and hard surfaces on it now. And it's not, I don't think, and I'm going to personally add that to the consideration set. And especially with all the environmental, global environmental changes.
Margaret, you have to finish up. You're over 3 minutes. So.
As were a lot of other
Yes,
people,
and-
but I'll
and
wrap,
that's why
I'll
I've
wrap
allowed
up.
you to- I didn't say stop, but you
Yeah,
said finish.
I'll wrap up. I'm in the process of reading 323 pages of the Southampton Coastal Resources Water Protection Plan, which I will be sharing with the committee and my HBCC. I've revisited the Hampton Bays Strategic Corridor Study, which does not include the western or eastern Shinnecock waterfront areas because that wasn't the focus on it. And I've looked at the Hampton Bays Waterfront Revitalization Plan. And to my knowledge, and I hope I'm wrong, and I'm hoping you all say, no, you're incorrect, there's no option, nor does it go into detail about wetland preservation in any of those documents. And some of those documents, if not all, reference very old data. So the corridor study is pre-2010. The revitalization plan is dated 2019, so I don't know when that data was collected, but definitely pre-COVID. So the coastal plan...
Margaret, you're at 5 minutes now.
Okay, all I'm saying is there's old data in that, and I just would ultimately like to say that because the Shinnecock has been identified as a hope spot, I'm hoping that revitalization and restoration from an environmental perspective will be considered.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so those are all the cards I have for public portion. Is there anyone else who has not spoken, who wanted to be heard, didn't fill out a card? All right, and we still don't have Zoom, but it's been a long meeting, so people, I guess, for the most part, could have figured it out and come here.
If I could just make one comment to my fellow residents in Hampton Bays. You know, I believe there's a large education curve here. We're all trying to get up to speed, the planning board most importantly. I lean on John, I lean on classes that I took back in January on this very subject, and we're all still acquiring the information we need to make the right decisions. You know, I have not made a decision on how I feel about it because I am still acquiring that information. And I think that's something I've asked the town board to bring some experts in to explain it not only to the residents, but also more in depth to us. So I hope that we do get more information.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna make a motion to close public portion.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna move on to the agenda, the resolutions. All right, so we are going to start with Resolution 769 of 2020.
We're still in the town board meeting right now.
All right, so once again, so Resolution 769 of 2023, authorizing funding for Peconic Estuary Partnership for 2023 Community Preservation Fund Water Quality Monies. Excuse me, sir, we are on resolutions. Again, 769 of 2023, authorized funding for Peconic Estuary Partnership from 2023 Community Preservation Fund Water Quality Monies and create capital account for water quality projects from portion of 2023 award.
Second.
That's co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilman Schiavone, seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution ID 770 of 2023, authorized increase for purchase and installation of 2 Quonset huts.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Councilman
Town Board
Scavone.
Resolution 771 of 2023 to authorize the supervisor to execute a service agreement with CCSI.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town
Approved.
Board Resolution 772 of 2023 to authorize the supervisor to extend managed network agreement with CCSI.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 773 of 23, authorized purchase and installation of steel railings from Retrofit Inc. using a Suffolk County contract for welding, fabrication, and repairs at the West Hampton Transfer Station.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 774 of 23, authorized purchase and construction services from Del Al Concrete Corporation using a Suffolk County contract for Americans with Disabilities Act ADA annual improvements to the West Hampton Transfer Station.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 775 of 2023 authorizes the renewal of Proofpoint Thorough Sourcewell contract with Software House International.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 776 of 2023, authorize the supervisor and chief of police to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Suffolk County Police Department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 777 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorized the supervisor to execute a consulting contract with H2M Architects, Engineers, Land Surveying, 8th outfit the wellhead treatment for iron and manganese removal at Plant 4 at the Hampton Bays Water District.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 778 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Martell, authorized the supervisor to execute a contract with Auctions International, Inc. for sale of surplus equipment owned by the town.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 779 of 23, authorized the supervisor to execute a maintenance agreement with Veripic Inc. Solution Software.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 780 of 23, co-sponsored by Councilman Scavone, authorized the supervisor to sign a contract amendment with Nelson Pope and Voorhees in connection with the preparation of a supplemental generic environmental impact statement for the proposed Riverside Sewage Treatment Plant, Hamlet of Riverside.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 781 of 23, authorize the supervisor to sign an amended consulting agreement with Michael J. Zarro to assist the Southampton Town Police Department with the Hexagon computer-aided dispatch software.
Second.
Hold on, I'm not done. Niche records management software, vigilant license plate reader, camera project, and any other project as approved by the chief of police. Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution, I'm sorry?
Approved.
Town Board Resolution 782 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, authorized the supervisor to sign an amendment to the cooperative agreement with Suffolk County for the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 783 of 2023, authorized the supervisor to sign extended contract with MacTech Engineering and Geology, PC, for Damascus Road landfill site.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 784 of 23, authorized the supervisor to sign the 2023 Bridgehampton Child Care and Recreation Center Community Program Grant.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 785, 2023, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract for wood wearing surface replacement of River Avenue Bridge with Delalio Coal and Stone Company Incorporated, DBA South Fork Asphalt.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 786 of 2023, award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract for a 2022 F-250 Super Duty with Cap Heat Service Body, 696-ML with Otis Ford Incorporated.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 787 of 2023, award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract for mulching head for Tecochi TL12R2 with Malvisi Equipment Company Incorporated.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 788 of 2023, declare item surplus and authorize disposal of pool tables.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 789 of 2023, recall and amend Resolution 2023-728, authorizing a contract with Easton Architect LLP for architectural and engineering services for the Tupper Boathouse.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 790 of 2023 notice to bidders for liquid propane gas.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 791 of 23, amend the 23 adopted budget for Highway Department to include CHIPS, Pave New York, EWR, and POP funding.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 792 of 2023, amend 2023 adopted budget for Poxabout Golf Course.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 793 of 23, amend the 2023 budget for various departments.
Second.
Housekeeping here, second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, 794 of 23, co-sponsored with all of you, authorizes adoption of the 2023 CPF pilot plan and payment of 2023 pilots.
Second.
Those are payment in lieu of taxes. Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 795 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone, authorized budget modification to the Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal years 2020 and 2021.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 796 of 2023, recall and amend Town Board Resolution 2023-765, authorizing expenditure from restricted account for Windsor Heart Project.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 797 of 2023, appoint Perry Gio to the North Sea Citizens Advisory Committee.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. 798 of 23, authorize the town attorney to accept settlement from Mary Elizabeth LLC and Stratford Insurance Company for a claim for damage to dock pilings which occurred at the Shinnecock Commercial Dock on October 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. 799 of 2023, authorize the town to reimburse New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, IMER, the deductible for bodily injury and property damage claims.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 800 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone. Resolution authorizing enforcement action at 1 Squires Pond Road.
We need to hold this.
We'll
Yeah.
table
On
it.
setting
Yeah, this
condition,
is-
water supply, we need to table it.
All right, so motion to table, Resolution 800, I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that'll be tabled to the next meeting Sunday.
Thank you.
Next one, too.
Town Board Resolution, I'm sorry, where are we?
801.
801,
page
right.
39.
Page 39.
You got a table
We've
too.
got to table this one too. Town Board Resolution 801 of 2023, as a resolution of adoption amending Town Code Chapter 312-62 to implement a parking by permit only pilot program at Wildwood Lake for weekends and federal holidays, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Labor Day, from May 15th to September 15th for a one-year period. Make a motion to table this to the next.
Second.
All right, motion tabled by Councilman Bouvier, second by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that is tabled to the next meeting. John, I think you're next.
Sorry.
It's 42.
Town Board Resolution 802 of 2023, co-sponsored with council, everybody. Dedicated park at 471 and 475 Montauk Highway Eastport as the Andrea Spilka Memorial Park and Andrea Spilka Memorial Nature Trail.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 803 of 2023, co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilwoman McNamara, Authorize waiver of Parks and Recreation Facilities use fee for the Village of East Quogue Beautification Native Plant Sale fundraiser.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 804 of 2023, authorize hiring of Kevin Quintero, police officer, Spanish-speaking start.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations to Officer Quintero, or soon-to-be Officer Quintero. 805 of 2023, appoint Eric Flores to Automotive Mechanic 5 position in the Highway Department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations to Eric. 806 of 23, appoints Kathleen Hanson to Office Assistant in Controller's Office.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations to Kathleen. 807, appoint Kelly Dwyer Kalb to Assistant Senior Citizen Center Manager position from Civil Service list.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations to Kelly. 808 of 23, appoint Laura Pettit to Senior Citizens Program Director position from Civil Service list.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations
Been doing a
to
great
Laura. Doing a great job over there. 809 of 2023, co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier, appoints Malin Ziesman to Principal Office Assistant in Land Management.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and Councilman Bouvier is a co-sponsor on that one. All was approved, so congratulations to Malin. 810 of 23, appoints Nicholas Belvedere to Maintenance Mechanic 1 position in Water District.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Congratulations to Nick. 811 of 23, appoints Tina Gambensky to Account Clerk position in Highway Department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Congratulations, Tina. 812 of 23, attendance at National Tactical Officers Association Sniper 1 training to be held in Belafonte, Pennsylvania, from August 21st to August 21st, 2023 through August 25th of 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 813 of 2023, authorize town engineer to attend training.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 814-23 accepts resignation of an Animal Control Officer 2 in Public Safety.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 815 of 2023 accepts resignation of a legislative aide in Town Council.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. Any discussion?
Yeah, if we could, please.
Yeah.
So, being a new, elected official coming in and May coming in at the same time, she was a tremendous help to me. The learning curve is tremendous when you get here. Just the tours around Town Hall and everything you need to do and working the resolutions and doing everything. She was really great about everything. She is someone that, I confided in quite a bit in the office, and I appreciate all the work that she's done for me. I'm very pleased that she went out on maternity. She had a gorgeous baby and, decided that she wanted to be a mom at this point. So I'm so happy for her and Tommy, and I wish her the best.
Just to piggyback on to what Rick said, May, congratulations. She is has an incredible wealth of knowledge in government. She has been in the county, and we're sorry to see her go, but, happy to see her, go on and be a mom and all that. So, wish you all the best, and I know we haven't seen the last of you.
Yes.
Yes, we all wish May the very best.
Yep.
Okay, so there was a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. So 816 of 2023 terminates an employee in finance office.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 817 of 23, ratify stipulation of agreement with CSEA.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 818 of 2023, a notice of public hearing to amend Town Code 283 special events in order to enhance enforcement ability, clarify definitions, and restructure application procedures.
And that is co-sponsored by Councilman Martell, and the
And that is
hearing is
co-sponsored
for
by
June
Councilman Martell.
27th at 6 PM. Any questions on this? All right, I'm not sure which version this one ended up being.
It is the one that strikes section B and C out of section
Right.
12.
Okay.
And we're having a public hearing.
And we haven't voted on it.
I know that. That's, does it, did we deal at all with language regarding development right, purchase process, properties? No, we left
Yeah,
that silence on that?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 819 of 2023, notice of public hearing to amend Town Code Chapter 312-20 to designated no parking on the center median of Maryland Boulevard, Hampton Bays, New York.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This will be also Tuesday, June 27th at 6 PM. All right, 820 of 2023, notice of public hearing on the acquisition of land of Joan DeMonicus located at 25 Whalers Drive, Sag Harbor, and amends the CPF management and sewage plan to include the property.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. This is a 400,000 acquisition in Sag Harbor area. APOD property. All right, hearing July 11th at 1 PM. So we had a motion, and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 821 of 23, notice of public hearing on the acquisition of lands of Laurie Leonard, and amends the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property. This is a small 1.1 acre piece for 80,000 up on the hill above SYS North Sea Park, adjacent to other property we've purchased.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. This will also be a July 11th hearing at 1 PM. So we have motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 822 of 23, authorized acquisition of lands of K4K LLC located at 381 Flanders Boulevard, Flanders, amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. This is a $20,000 acquisition. It's a quarter of an acre, a little bit less, 0.2, 20% of an acre at 381 Flanders Boulevard. We held a hearing. It's co-sponsored by everybody, so I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 823 of 2023, recall and amend TBR 2023-70303, accepting a deed of residual fee from Blair K. Gossett for properties to be maintained as open space located at North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-63-4-26.1, 20,27.1, and 31.8, pursuant to Southampton Town Code, Chapter 244-4, obtaining a development rights certificate, and Chapter 247, General Municipal Law of the State of New York.
Can you repeat that?
Is that
Sure.
the whole resolution?
Recall and amend.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, to the walk-ons. 43474 appoints Jeff Ulysses to planner trainee position at land management.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations. 43573, notice of public hearing to accept a deed of open space dedication in connection with a site disturbance plan approval for 378 Watermill Town Road.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board ID 43595, authorized extension and amendment of Green Velvet Tree Incorporated contract.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution ID 43596, notice of public hearing for enforcement action at 6 Ashwood Court, North Sea, Southampton, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-61-1-19.2, to remove hazardous accumulation of material.
Second, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor someday, if that's okay.
This is the property where the.
I know.
Yeah.
And I just, if you go to the resolution, there is a timeline of enforcement actions that have taken place at the property and our involvement there, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a long period of time, and that
We've been
doesn't-
dealing with this since the beginning of May.
Yeah, so we have somebody watching this, though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No,
And Hazmat was there yesterday, an environmental cleanup crew was there yesterday.
even their own, I mean, the owner of the property had an environmental company there, so, yeah. The
Yeah, it
emergency
just
issues
seemed really-
have been addressed, or will be
Yeah.
addressed.
Yeah, hazardous seems like a lesser word from what I saw, but.
It may 27 East.
All right, so we had a second by Councilman Scavone, who's co-sponsoring, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved, what's the date of that hearing?
It's the 27th.
The 27th of June?
June.
Yes.
Okay, and then the last resolution, 43598, is the warrant number 11, CPF 11, Capital 11, and payroll liability.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Okay, that's the last resolution. Is there any other business? Seeing none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
There's still a party going on.
Oh, my God.